skip a break? It did.
For casual and hardcore sports fans, live sports betting updates for all of the night's games as they happen. The latest scores, sides, totals, props, parlays, futures, and much
All right, we're gonna be a little late getting in. I'm gonna go ahead and play this spot.
BetMGM tonight, exclusively on the Fan and on the Odyssey app.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Green. With easy access to a million plus parts and the scale to deliver when and where you need them, the right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call thegranger.com or just inquire at Granger for the one to get it done. Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, and loose-going stool.
Oh, it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Franchise, the NFL is better when the Raiders are good. It's innate.
Check this out. So an official Rob Brown lockdown.
Everything's being weird.
Yeah. Manufacturers locally for the Carolinas.
So weird.
Good morning.
Hey, Big Daddy, how you doing?
Feel me? For real. Do you feel him, sir?
I feel it. Do you feel it? We feel it collectively. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. Welcome in the Rob Brown Show's on the radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Happy Wednesday, the midweek edition. Set to rock and roll this and every weekday morning from 6 till 10 a.m. on the Fan Upstate. How's everybody? Y'all good? Y'all good? Everybody good? Everybody good? Everybody living their best life? I hope everybody's well. I am. Not that you asked. That have been rude of you not to. My name is Rob Brown. The pleasure, however, is not exclusively mine, because on the other side of the metaphorical glass, the guy in charge of this and every radio program that you've ever listened to anywhere at any point on any station, Colonel Grudge himself, the Sultan of Swag, the Professor of Perfection, the Wizard of Wave, is here. What up, Zoe?
Also herder of deer. So, I mean, that's a new title, herder of deer.
I feel like you won't so much herding as like chasing down the road.
Well, no, they just, they were escorting me to my destination, and there were about 9 of them.
Mm-hmm.
The mama deer or daddy deer, whichever, they bailed. So it was all the younger deer leading me down the road, and me wondering, okay, are they going to veer at some point? A bridge is coming up. Are they going all the way over the bridge? What are they doing? They went over the bridge, by the way. And I thought, okay, it cost me a couple minutes as I just stayed back and waited for them to move. I'm not going to beep the horn, because I think that would cause panic and also would wake up, people who are still sleeping. I don't want to do that, but still.
Who are you waking up? You live on a compound.
I do have to go on a road where there are people who live on those roads, and I don't want to wake anybody up.
So you have neighborhood deer.
No. It's still out. Listen, farmhouses are still houses, okay? And those farmhouses and those farmers have shotguns, and I'd rather not wake them up with the beeping of a horn while it's driving a highly visible in color car where they could take shots. So no, I'll herd the deer.
Okay. Well, that's how the Great Ones Day started. Anybody else out there having to herd wildlife to start your day, or is it just the Great One? Have you hit a deer yet?
Dude, I don't know if you believe in luck. That's bad luck, probably. No, I've come really close in the last couple weeks.
I hit a deer. I was driving back. You know when I hit a deer? I can tell you exactly when I hit a deer, too.
Around this time.
Hit a deer. What was it? 2000. What was that big snowstorm we had? 22? 23? That's 22, right? I don't know. Whenever that last.
This Friday.
Yeah, well, this Friday.
Yes, we're going to get, ladies and gentlemen, 1 inch of snow, which is a lot, I swear. It's the average amount of snow. 1 inch, maybe up to 3 on Saturday. I'm not saying it's nothing. I'm making jokes.
Okay, so a herd typically is 20. So it wasn't a herd.
You saw a small group of deer.
Yes.
That
gang of deer.
That last big snowstorm. That last snow that we had that came through the area.
Which is a big snowstorm for this area.
It wasn't not. I was driving back.
Probably a big one for someone from Florida.
Any snow is a big snow for somebody from the beach. We were driving back. The lady and I, hilariously, on that morning, I told her, I was like, look, it's been a couple of years since I've seen snow. Let's go up to Asheville, because Asheville was expected to get snow. And I was like, I brought this brand new, well, I actually was in the Jeep still. I got this 4-wheel drive Jeep. Let's go up to Asheville. Let's go to some breweries. Let's hang out in the snow, right? Like, I want to go see the snow. And it was like a day trip. We weren't going up there into the night. We're like, let's go up there for a day trip. So we drove up to Asheville, and it was magical. We got there. We parked the Jeep right there on Main Street in Asheville. I don't know what the name of that road is. Asheville Street. We parked right there.
Sounds legitimate. Yeah.
Why not? We parked right there on Main Street. We were hitting a couple of different breweries up and down Main Street. They got this like really cool little wine house that's like, it's kind of underground, old speakeasy vibes. It was really cool. And when we parked the car to go there, as soon as we got out of the car, it started snowing. And I know that like a bunch of you were like, yo, bleep that. Absolutely not. I have not seen snow. I used to go when I was younger and more formidable, before my dad passed. My dad used to take me and my brother snow skiing, like, once every year or so, every other year or something like that. And we'd go out to Colorado and go out to Aspen or Boulder or wherever, Copper Mountain, and we'd go snow skiing. I loved snow skiing. So, but I hadn't gone in years. I hadn't seen snow in years. And so we drove up there and we get out of the car. And like the second we get out of the car, it starts snowing. It was a Hallmark moment. Like, it was one of those moments, judge as you will. I walked around the car. I grabbed my, at the time, girlfriend, now wife, and just kissed her. I'm like, this is romantic AF, bro. This is fantastic. And then it kept snowing.
Did you linger so you could feel the flakes fall?
Oh, 100%. I did the whole cheesy Hallmark movie setup, dude. Like, hand all the way around the waist, like the full, like, pull in where you like straighten your back up and you look down into her eyes. I did the whole thing, right?
Our first snow together, we had a snowball fight. So
that checks out.
That
checks out for you. That checks out. Not me. I tried to make a romance movie out of it, and it worked, by the way. Big kiss, and I'm like, let's go have some beer in the snow.
I won that snowball fight, by the way. She doesn't have that big.
No easy victories.
Yeah,
no easy victories. A win's a win. So we go up and we're in Asheville and it's nice and we're having some patio beers in the snow. Everyone's looking at us like, what are these two morons doing outside? But again, hadn't seen snow in years. It was nice. It was fun. It was calm. It was romantic. And then it gets to be, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, not late. It's 50 minutes from our house to our favorite brewery in downtown Asheville, right? Like it's a screw it. Let's go to Asheville and have some beers kind of trip. So it gets to be like 6:30, 7 o'clock. Sun's going down. We're like, all right, let's head back. Great. Let's head back. Still snowing, by the way. So we get up out of Asheville. We leave. We're driving back. And dude, it is now snowing in the mountains. Snowing. Like 15 miles an hour on the interstate. You can't see more than 10, 15 feet ahead of your car. Snowing. And I'm like, all right. Soon as we get out of the hills, soon as we get back down to the upstate, this will stop, right? It did not. It was that all the way home. Then we get back to the crib. No, we don't get back to the crib. We get back to Greenville, and the road that we would ordinarily take to get to our house was snowed over, and there were cars in the ditch, like people standing on the side of the road. It's like, I don't know what to do. I can't help you. I can't pull you out of there. You're down there. Like, you're just going to have to wait till this crap's over. Cars in the ditch, can't go anywhere.
Did you wave?
No, like you do that thing where you grab the steering wheel and you just stare straight ahead because you're like, if I look and you're like, can you help? I have to go, no. Sucks to be you, but I can't do anything to help you right now, right? I'd love to. I'm a stop and help if I can guy, but there was nothing I could do. And so we kind of kept driving, and we ended up having to take this road. I don't even know what it's called, but like it wrapped all the way around our neighborhood. You had to go all the way around and come back from the far side of Greenville back up to get to our house. And this road's kind of like through. It's off there's a hill on the side of it. And dude, as we were driving back into this part, like it's still snowing. It's not as bad as it was, but it's still snowing. And as I'm driving down the road, like 3 deer jump in front of the car. And I rear right quarter paneled the crap out of this deer. Not my car. I hit the deer in the back right leg. And it was, you know how sometimes stuff happens and it's slow motion, right? You're just like, you can see every little detail of it. I assume that's what like great quarterbacks do, right? They get the snap, they drop in the pocket. Here comes Max Crosby. And all of a sudden, they just see everything on the field. It's like a movie where all the numbers and the letters and the equations start floating around. I saw this deer's eye looking at me, and I'm like, sorry, bro. Nothing I can do. You jumped in front of me, dog. I tagged the absolute out of the back right of this deer. And then I watched as I hit it. He went flying, spinning in the air, like revolving in the air to the side of the road, which then there was about a 22-foot hill straight down, and he just down the side of that hill. I didn't see that part. All I know is that I got out of I stopped the car. I got out, I looked. He had jacked up my headlight and all that. I walked to the side of the road. I looked down, and you could see through the snow on the side of the hill, you could see the path where the deer slid down the hill, but he was gone. He was gone. Then I went the next morning. I went out to check the damage because at this part it was dark. I went out to check the damage. And not only did he jack up my headlight, but I had to, and this is gross, but not a joke, I had to pick frozen chunks of deer meat out from the headlight and the grill of my car. I had gashed him. When I say this, I'm a hunter. I've been hunting since I was a kid. I've shot and killed many deer in my lifetime. Bro, I was straight up flat out traumatized by this. I'm like, oh, that poor deer. Because I didn't want to kill that one. That would have felt bad for him.
I thought you were going to say you started retching and stuff.
No. I mean, it is what it is. I've cleaned and field stripped my own deer.
How does one pick deer out of their headlight?
Slowly with your fingers. But
so you did fingers.
It was made easier because since it was overnight and frozen, they were blocks of frozen deer meat.
Gotcha.
Right. Okay. Like I probably could have taken them inside, put them in the air fryer, and had like deer nuggets for lunch, right? Like they were just little and you just kind of wing them off into the yard. Like I guess when this thaws, the crows are going to be happy. But I was flat out traumatized by that. So I have hit a deer. Lonzo shockingly has not, despite the fact that he doesn't have a house in a yard. He has a house in a deer environment.
Well, maybe we just get along. I don't know.
All right, we got a lot we got to get to.
Don't put that on me, okay? I'm glad I haven't hit a deer.
Trust me, as somebody who has, and especially in your car,
right.
I'm not rooting for it.
Right, because it could be deadly for me too.
Yeah,
so
my car was like a small SUV. Lonzo tags one in his rig. He's probably spinning off into the woods for a couple of minutes.
I'm more worried about coming in the windshield.
There's also that.
Yeah.
All right, we got a lot we're going to get to, a lot to talk about today on the show. Our text line poll question of the day is up. I don't know about you. We talked about pettiness in sports a couple of times this week. I said earlier in the week that when the Saints lost that game to the Bucs, I would have done everything in my power. I'd have had 6 DBs lined up to stop Mike Evans from getting 1,000 yards. And I said, to me, the definition of a rivalry is pettiness, right? You're willing to be petty to ruin the day of a person wearing the other color from you. That's the definition of a rivalry. I want to ask this. In the college football playoff Final Four, who are you rooting against? Who do you least want to see win the national championship. Lonzo just rolled his eyes, and I think that's because he thinks the Buckeyes are going to run away with this poll. But I'm not so sure about that. I'm really not. And I'll tell you why. I got an argument for all 4 teams. The Longhorns, because I got to tell you, there's some level of joy in annually listening to the Longhorns tell everybody they're back, and they're not they're back. Now, maybe you can say that they're back because they made it to the Final Four, and not, only 2 teams can make it to the dance and only 1 can win it. But, I think there's some, and on top of that, that even though it is their first year in the conference playing football in the conference, if Texas wins this thing, we're going to have to listen to SEC fellers out there talking about how the damn SEC is still the best conference in football. Whether you like it or not, damn it, we're the best conference in college football. Hell yeah. And that's annoying to me, all right? Keeping it a buck with you, that's annoying to me. So there's my reason to root against Texas. Every Ohio State Buckeye fan except Lonzo, sometimes a little obnoxious. Sometimes. Now, I think that's true about most college football fan bases, but there's just something special about the Buckeye fan base. They are a fan base that if you don't want them to win, it's solely because you revel in the pain of Buckeye fans. Not Lonzo's, but all the rest of them's. Okay? Notre Dame. Is there a more elitist, entitled, arrogant fan base, and undeservedly so, by the way, unjustifiably so, is there a more entitled, elitist, arrogant fan base in college football than Notre Dame's? That's another team that I'm like, I just don't want to see their fans happy. I just don't. And then Penn State. Now, there's a lot of reasons to dislike Penn State. Maybe you enjoy the frustration of James Franklin being unable to get anything done. Maybe you still hold, as I do, a little bit of a grudge about the handling of the Joe Paterno situation, which I think is totally fair to hold that grudge maybe forever. There's a lot of reasons. So here is my question. What team do you least, as a fan, not least think will, do you least want to win the national championship? That is our text line poll question of the day. I want you to text your answer, Longhorns, Lions, Buckeyes, or Irish, to 844-326-3663. 844-326-3663. Text your answer, Lions, Irish, Buckeyes, Longhorns, and just text that word, Lions, Longhorns, Buckeyes, or Irish, to 844-326-3663. Poll question of the day, which of the Final Four do you least want to see win the national championship? We'll tabulate your votes and let you know the winner at the end of the show. We got to talk quite a bit of NFL today. Another head coach canned yesterday. The Raiders moving on for him, Antonio Pierce, plus another really bad hot take from somebody with a big show. That I was like, do you people not think, or you just need attention? All that and more coming up. We're going to have a good day. A Wednesday on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Roadmaster DB, Mike, Kane, not Glenn Jacobs. Well, that's Kane.
It's so easy to predict finish of this poll. So easy. It's going to be Ohio State number 1. It's going to be Notre Dame number 2. It's going to be Texas number 3.
You think so?
It's going to be Penn State number 4.
There's a lot of we did this on Saturday, and there was a lot of Penn State hate. A lot of Penn State, but that was a national show.
It's about the area you're in.
That's fair.
Roadmaster, you underestimate the hatred of Clemson fans who are bred to absolutely hate Ohio State. I've had many a discussion, and I've lived here over half my life with Clemson fans and asked them why they hate Ohio State, and they can never give me an answer. They just do. Some hatred happens naturally. Other hatreds are handed down from generation to generation. And eventually you don't know why you hate. You just hate because you're told you're supposed to. By the way, I'm rooting from Ohio State. I'm from Ohio. So but I'm just telling you that the Clemson fans are going to, because they ruin all polls that we do here if they're involved in it. I appreciate their passion, whether it's, warranted or not. It's all about Woody Hayes and the punch, I think.
Not that it is impactful, but as an FYI, Denton Day is moving to 8 o'clock this morning.
Okay. That is true. They were in there, then they weren't. If I were to vote in the poll, which I'm not going to, but if I were, I would vote Notre Dame number 1.
You can vote in the poll.
I know I can. I'm just lazy. Oh no. According to Big Bronson Reed, who just retweeted, Kim Jong-un has banned hot dogs in North Korea.
Okay, Trump, now you can go to war.
The ban is to stop.
Now you can do
the ban
it,
is
Trump.
to stop the spread of Western influence.
Let's stop the dumb
in
Canada,
North Korea.
Greenland stuff, but you can go get them. If they're anti-hot dog, they're anti-freedom.
Did you see the video I sent you?
Yeah.
I didn't even hear it, but I can wait. I can see the point. I can watch him mouth it.
Yeah. Big show lined up for you today. Here's what we got coming up on the docket. Water cooler cheat sheet at 7 o'clock this morning. We'll give you all the stories that you need to know. 8 a.m. Ordinarily, Denton Day joins us at 7:40 on Wednesdays, but Denton Day, being the A-list celebrity that he is, has a thing. So he's going to join us on the stream at 8 a.m., which is fine by me, because that'll give us an extra couple of minutes to talk college football playoff Final Four.
It's still there.
I know.
Get rid of it.
And I don't even know why I do that.
Push it out of there.
That makes no sense for me to do that in that spot right there.
Where's Denton from?
Denton's from Baltimore.
Yeah, so not even close to, to make
it's not
you
like,
want to do
if
that.
Denton was like a Nebraska guy, a Chicago guy, then that would make sense. I don't know where it came from. It's just like it's rent-free. Denton Day will join us at 8 o'clock. We'll talk about the college football playoff Final Four with the host of SiriusXM's College Football Overtime. Then at 8:40 this morning, we will get with Mark Bonetti, the voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. The Bunnies had a tough end to 2024. Real tough sledding down the end of last year. Started off 2025 with a good note. They did lose in overtime last night on the road at the Orlando Solar Bears. They are back home this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and just in time because I think the Bunnies could use a little home cooking, get back on home ice in front of the Greenville crowd and try to get right. We'll talk with Mark Bonetti at 8:40 this morning about a little local heck. But I want to get into something that we talked a little bit about yesterday on the show. And for those of you that are tuning in for your footballs, don't worry. We got plenty of football coming up. But I wanted to knock this out in the everybody's trying to get their life together hour of the show.
So we're not talking about Harold, are we?
We are not, though.
Okay.
I have to tell you, Zoe, in full disclosure and clarity. Yesterday, the wife says, "Hey, can you run up to the big box store and grab us some supplies in case we get snowed in this weekend?" I'm like, "It's 1 inch of snow. I think we'll be okay."
Did she
but
send
sure.
you for bread, and then you ask her why?
No, she
Okay, all right.
she sent me for, and I'm going to use her words here, snacks. And I said, "Which snacks?" And she said, "All of the snacks." And I said, "That's fair. That's fair." So I got sent to get TP. I did get bread, but that's only because I love peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
Okay, all right.
I have renewed my love of peanut butter and jelly
You
sandwiches.
consider that a snack, probably.
Oh, hell yeah.
So she said snacks.
That's a wonderful
and
snack.
okay.
All right. So I got sent to the store.
Bread supply still pretty good.
Bread supply's great. Got a fresh loaf yesterday.
Okay.
Got a fresh loaf yesterday. Real good bread supply. Had all the options on the wall.
As we
still.
get closer, the bread will disappear. And here's the thing.
And milk, too. Plenty of milk.
All the people who think it only happens here, it doesn't. It happens in Ohio. Worked at grocery stores forever. And yeah, it disappears probably no matter where you are. If snow is on the docket, the bread and milk are gone.
You're good today. You're good today. So I went up, I got the snacks, whatever. So she said, can you go get the stuff? I said, yep, no worries. I'm in the car and I'm on the way back from the store and I am listening to Wire to Wire with Cole Bryson and Diesel, our afternoon show that airs every single weekday from 3 until 7 p.m. A wonderful show filled with humor, romance, love, passion, intensity.
No, you can't say that. You can't, because you're implying. Don't do that.
I'm not implying anything.
Don't. I just want it duly noted. I had nothing to do with that.
Full of love, passion, romance. It's a wonderful show.
When the beard comes in and takes you out, you're going to know why.
Diesel's a lover.
Uh-huh.
He'll say whatever he wants. I've met his wife. He's a romancer.
I've also seen that anger in his eyes.
So
yeah.
I'm on the way back and I'm listening to Wire to Wire. And Cole, who is running the calls, goes, all right, we got to get a Cole in here. Let's welcome to the show.
Just said Cole, who's running the calls, said, okay, we got to get a Cole in here.
He said, we got to get a call in here. He said, let's go to Harold. And I'm like, GTFO, dog. No way. So he's, let's go to Harold. And I'm expecting, because this is me, I'm expecting one of you clowns to be calling in and going, hey, Cole, it's Harold Cox calling here on the show. But it wasn't. It was a genuinely very nice older guy, Navy vet in his 70s named Harold. And so I'm listening to this call and I'm like, I really thought it was one of you guys crank calling their show as Harold Cox. And I was really excited to hear what one of you guys was going to say as Harry. I was pretty excited. So I'm listening. And it turns out this guy's just like a genuinely nice old Navy vet that called the show because he wanted to talk about football, right? And so I text Cole and I'm like, listen, I need you to ask this guy if he's ever gone as Harry before. And Cole did it. He's to Cole's benefit. He's like, hey, our buddy Rob Brown's listening right now, and he wants to know if you've ever gone by Harry. And the guy's like, nope, I'm Harold. I've gone by Hal, but I've never gone by Harry before. And I was like, he's like, oh, okay, Rob Brown must have mistaken you for somebody else. So I sent Cole a screenshot of the player profile of one Harold Cox, and Cole texted me back, and he goes, he said, like, I'm glad I didn't know about that. I wouldn't have been able to stop laughing about it. And then he sends me that message right there, the name of his PE teacher.
Yeah, I've heard of,
whose name was Richard Cox.
Yeah.
Parents, when you name your children, just think for a second.
They did it on purpose.
Just think for a second.
No. They did that on purpose. That was a dad did that. A dad did that. Come on.
So somewhere out there, back in Cole's childhood, there was a PE teacher named Richard Cox.
You act like it's that far away.
No,
I mean he's
22.
Yeah,
no,
like that.
no telling for sure No telling for sure if Richard Cox is related to Harold Cox. But the Cox family is growing, is all we know. Okay? It's growing. All right.
They're big in this area.
And you know what? I can't top that joke. That's a walk-off. That's the grand slam. That's the big dong right there. We're walking off on that. I got enough time to bring it up here. Y'all, I watched the TGL last night, and it was amazing. It was so much fun, dude. I loved it. Genuinely, not me trying to sell it to you, because if I was ever going to try to sell you on something, it wouldn't be the TGL. I watched it last night,
Rob Brown,
and I loved it.
Rob Brown. I watched probably 15, 20 minutes of it. And you're right. It was pretty good.
It's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It was fun.
It was pretty good. I was a little shocked. And speaking of, they explained what was underneath the greens to elevate it with the whatever they're called.
That was badass, right?
Yeah, it was
awesome.
Cool. It was.
So the
I don't know. I think Tiger fell asleep a couple of times, but he's getting older. So he
is. Tiger's older than me. I just want to point that out. The TGL, for those of you that didn't watch last night, honestly, I think you missed out. It was cool, man. I'll tell you what I loved the most about it. And remember, going into this thing, and this is what I said. This is what I said yesterday. What I said yesterday was, this is a brilliant idea from golf, from Tiger and Rory and the investors who got in on this, because sports are only going to grow if you promote the superstars, and then the superstars promote the game. That's what I think gets lost in translation, right? I think that, for instance, Major League Baseball does a great job promoting the game, but the players aren't promoted. They promote like Juan Soto. They promote, Shohei Ohtani, and that's kind of it. They do a good job promoting the game, but not the players in it. The NBA is the exact opposite. The NBA does an excellent job of letting the players promote themselves, but the players don't promote the game. They just promote themselves. Hey, listen to our new podcast. Here's my new line of clothing. Here's my new shoe brand, whatever. Golf, I think, hit on the winning formula last night. Because what they do, they promoted the players. There was a moment, if you didn't get to watch it, I think it's worth going back and giving another listen to. There was a moment last night where, good gosh, who was it? The Scottish guy. Anyway, one of the guys, and I'm blanking on.
Rory?
No, one of the guys playing last night.
Oh, okay. Drew McIntyre.
Yes, noted PGA Tour professional Drew McIntyre, who is the only Scottish guy that Lonzo is aware of. No, Shane Lowry, Irish, not Scottish. He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me.
Someone's going to, if Odie's listening.
Shane Lowry last night stepped up and launched an absolute and entire missile into the screen. I mean, just rocked it. And he turns around and he looks in the camera and he goes, "I'm the indoor Scotty Scheffler." Like, if you're a golf guy, that's a great joke, all right? And it's a joke that I've made before off a hitting tee on the range. I had a drive once that I'm like, I am driving range Scotty Scheffler. On the course, I suck. But out here, I look like $1 million. It allowed the personalities to shine through in a way that I'm now a Shane Lowry guy because of that one moment. I'm like, I like this guy. This guy's fun. He gets it. And then golfers, I think, when it comes to professional sports, I think golfers do a better job of anybody else at promoting their sport and making their sport the centerpiece of which they're a part, not the other way around. So now, because the wife watched a little bit with me too, and she was laughing at the bleep talk back and forth on the green zone. She was like, "Oh, that's pretty funny." I'm like, right. And now she's got it, like I predicted, she's got a couple more guys. Wyndham Clark is one of them. She's like, "Hey, he's kind of cute." I'm like, "Yeah, he is. What do you want me to say? He's a handsome fella." She's like, "And he's funny." Great. Now I'm out. Now the point is, now she wants to watch the whatever the next tournament is because she's a Wyndham Clark guy now. And that's awesome. So the point here is, I said yesterday that formula was going to be magnifique. It was fun. It was a fun 2 hours went by that fast to me. The only time it felt slow was when they had the halftime intermission. All right, we'll talk more about it later in the show because I loved it personally. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio, the Fan Upstate. I mean, DB, we are my bad.
It's my fault.
My bad.
Should've.
DB, we are a
You didn't notice that you couldn't hear anything.
I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, that's okay.
We're all about the highbrow comedy on this show. All about the highbrow comedy. Always have been. Oh, crap.
We'll be back.
Somebody just said the snow is going to be butthole deep to a pine beetle. I don't know why that's my favorite phrase, but it is now.
That doesn't sound like a lot of snow. How big is pine beetle?
Not big.
There was a time when the arthritis in my knee would let me know that true snow was coming, but now it's hurting so bad it doesn't. I mean, so,
July and it's about to snow.
Although that might be the reason why the gel is not working. Could be.
What if the gel freezes?
That would be awesome.
No, it wouldn't.
Why wouldn't it?
If a chunk of gel is in your knee frozen, seems like that would suck a lot.
That would be icing my knee. That would take the pain away. I mean, it's internal icing. It's still icing. As long as the blood flows everywhere else around it, we're good. Yay, I got to put Winter is Coming on a chapter title.
is the Rob Brown Show here on the Fan Upstate, a Wednesday morning edition of the show. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo, and you. Be a part of the show, 844-326-3663. You can text us on the same number, 844-326-3663, if you'd like to come at us in that direction. Your text message poll question of the day: which Final Four team do you least wish to see win the national championship? Who are you rooting against is our question today. Text your answer to 844-326-3663. Text Lions, Longhorns, Buckeyes, or Irish. Lions, Longhorns, Buckeyes, or Irish. Text that word to 844-326-3663. And as an FYI, the way that these votes work is that the vote is tabulated by a keyword. So if you text Notre Dame, if you text Texas, if you text Ohio State, it will not count your vote. You have to text the word Longhorns, the word Irish, the word Lions, or the word Buckeyes to the show. We will tabulate those at the end of the show and tell you who the Upstate is rooting against in this one. Rooting against. I'm interested to see what that works out. Lonzo is convinced the Buckeyes are going to run away with this thing. Lonzo is convinced the Buckeyes are going to be the team that the Upstate is most rooting against in this spot. So we'll talk about that as the show continues this morning. I can come up with an argument for each. I can come up with an argument for why I'm voting against all four teams. I am going to start with Texas. I don't want Texas to win it. And I don't want Texas to win it for one very simple reason. I don't want Texas to win it because Conference Guy is going to make it all about him. This team has been in this conference for one season. This team has had the benefits of being in this conference for one season. And the SEC guys are pinning their hopes and dreams on Texas. Because as you all know, if an SEC fan wins it, or if an SEC team wins it, all the teams in the conference get to claim co-national championship status. It's real simple. Because I don't want SEC guy calling into the show for another year talking about how amazing they are when, because I've also spent a year saying, to me, it is very clear the Southeastern Conference is the best conference in football. But by that, I mean deepest. The teams at the top aren't exponentially better than everybody else the way that they have been in years gone by. They're good. But the couple of teams at the top are as good as the couple of teams at the top at a couple of conferences. It's not this dominant force of nature that it used to be. But if Texas sneaks in and they win this thing, then you're going to have to hear from that guy for another year. That's why I don't want Texas to win it. On top of that, there's some mild pleasure that I get in listening to Texas fans every year on the radio popping off about how we are so bleeping back, baby. We're back. Texas is back. The Horns are back. Everybody getting hooked. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things, like with so many teams.
I just realized now I can do this.
Why?
Direct competition.
That's hate speech.
Direct competition.
It's hate speech. This to me, I think that for me, when it comes to Texas, it's number one, it's SEC guy for sure. But aside from it being an SEC guy, it is also the thought that I like when teams find new and inventive and creative ways to break their team's hearts. I'm a Saints fan. I don't know what you want. That's how it works. The Yankees going to having all the momentum and then losing the World Series was the most. You know what the Yankees do next year? They go to 7 games in the World Series and then lose, right? New and inventive and creative ways to break their team's hearts. Always fun to me. Ohio State. I love Lonzo. Ohio State fans can be a bit obnoxious. They just, and it's the online variety. But that's where I do most of my interaction with fans from around the country, is online. I also host a nationally syndicated show on Saturdays, and we get some kickback, some feedback on that show for sure. But the online Buckeye fans are by and large obnoxious most of the time. Texas fans are too, just so we're clear. But there's something special about Ohio State. There really is. Because there's something special about Ohio State, watching their fan base melt, if nothing else, watching their fan base melt down online is going to be great. It'll be great. However, I will say this to counter argument that I'm also kind of rooting for the Buckeyes to win the Natty for 2 reasons. Number one, because I'm good with the great one Lonzo rolling up in here after winning a Natty. I'm good with the great one Zoe rolling up in here after winning a Natty, feeling good about himself, bringing those high vibes. I'm down for that. But that's reason number 1 of 2. The second reason that I'm, in a way, I think kind of rooting for the Buckeyes to win the Natty is because, do you remember last offseason and through this season and through rivalry weekend and after rivalry weekend when Ohio State lost to Michigan? Do you remember the conversation that was going on where Lonzo told me that he genuinely believed that there was a large swath of Buckeye fans that were going to be calling for Ryan Day's job if he lost to Michigan again? And I said, well, that is certifiably insane. That's a silly thing to think and believe. If Ryan Day wins the Natty, do you understand the healthy Zion Williamson level amounts of energy I will bring to each and every individual dunk that I can dunk on those fans? Every one of them will catch that smoke from me. And yes, I kind of look forward to handing it out. I kind of look forward to hunting down, metaphorically speaking, the Buckeye fans that wanted Ryan Day gone if Ryan Day brings them a Natty, and going, you know what? Turns out maybe you don't know ball that good. Maybe you don't know ball that good. I told you, this guy's got that dog in him. Now, if he doesn't win, specifically if he loses to Texas, I'm intrigued to hear what happens at that point. I still think it's ludicrous to fire the guy, but we'll see. We'll see. As far as the Irish go, again, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish fans are the Dallas Cowboy fans of college football. They are the most entitled and arrogant and entirely unjustified in feeling such fan base in college football. Notre Dame fans act as if the college football world should circle around them. Notre Dame fan, this is the whole concept of not joining a conference, which again, I don't fault them for. If NBC is going to pay them $1 gazillion a year to be featured the same way that other conferences are featured in, in television contracts elsewhere. If that's the case, I don't blame Notre Dame for taking that cash money, man. I don't blame them. So because of that, I can't blame Notre Dame for taking the money, but the fans get obnoxious about it when they feel like they are the definition of college football fandom. I've been to South Bend, Indiana, and I've said this a number of times. Of all the road trips I've gone on to go see college football stadiums nationally, Notre Dame was my favorite. The people were incredible. The stadium is beautiful. The campus is picturesque. It's a beautiful place. The people were beyond kind there. I loved it. They're a little entitled. They're a little obnoxious. And to watch that fan base take a hit would be very, very enjoyable to me. And then there's Penn State. Penn State, yeah. Again, I am going to, for a very long time, hold a grudge against Penn State fans, respectfully to Penn State fans. I am going to hold a grudge for a long time against Penn State fans because of the way that the Joe Paterno situation was handled at large. I think it's gross. I still think it's gross. I think the fact that after all the details came out, that the fact that Penn State fans continued to fight for the legacy of Joe Paterno when we found out what had happened there in Happy Valley. I think when the Penn State fans went out of their way to try to maintain the legacy of Joe Paterno, I got turned off to Penn State fans at large. And one of my dear friends here in town, Penn State guy. And I hope he loves his team. And he was one of the few Penn State fans. It's like, yeah, white out that mural. Get him off of there. Let's pretend like he never existed. But he is the minority in my experience so far. And yeah, taking a page out of Lonzo's book and holding a grudge for a very long time on that. I thought it was gross. I thought the fact that when college football was trying to give Penn State the out by saying, hey, we're going to let you wipe the slate. We're going to say that was all about one guy. That was all about one guy. That was all about one person. And you guys can go ahead and separate yourselves from that and go, hey, one guy. Well, two guys. Two guys at Penn State went through this. Two guys from Penn State did all this. We gave Penn State the out to separate themselves from that program, to separate themselves from that guy, from those guys. We gave them that opportunity, and Penn State fans didn't take it. They decided that they wanted to hang on to the legacy of Joe Paterno. And that was gross to me. That was gross to me. That's where I checked out. That's where I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. I hope you never win another ball game. Certainly not a natty. So there's my reasons for being anti all four teams. We're being petty on the show today. Be petty with us, won't you? Which team do you not want to see win the natty the most? Text Longhorns, text Lions, text Irish, or text Buckeyes to 844-326-3663. Lions, Longhorns, Irish, or Buckeyes. Text the word to 844-326-3663. Let's talk college football, ladies and gentlemen, and we will continue to do that. We get your water cooler cheat sheet coming up next. We got Denton Day at 8 o'clock. We got Mark Benetti, voice of the Swamp Rabbits, at 8:40. We'll talk some more golf, all of that and more coming up after Lonzo Shefties your ears with this Sports Flash.
You know, that story so old, people don't know what that means anymore. Number one men's college basketball team took their first loss yesterday as Tennessee fell on the road to Florida 73-43. Ooh, that hurts. Volunteers shot just 21% from the floor and 4 of 29 from deep while being out-rebounded 55-38. The loss is the worst by a number one team in more than 50 years. Clemson Tiger basketball team fell further from the top 25 with a road loss to unranked Louisville last night, 74-64. Brad Brownell said the environment rattled the Tigers, who shot 40% from the floor and 33% from deep. Clemson drops to 12-4 on the season. Still a winning record, though. Tune in tonight at 6:30 as the Furman Paladins take on the Citadel Bulldogs. It's Furman versus the Citadel right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. The Fan, upstate. I suddenly have fog in my throat. So Silver wanted to play Jenga yesterday.
Oh,
I had never really played Jenga before. And yes, I won. But still, I mean.
Lonzo gives out no victories.
Well.
I like that, Kane. I like that. See the best ball team playing the best ball, win the ball title. I like that.
The biggest question about Ohio State is, can Will Howard keep it up? Will they keep the intensity up that they've had for the last 2 weeks? If they do, they shouldn't. No one should beat them. But if they show up Michigan style, then they're in trouble. And hopefully, Texas is tired. I know how this is going to sound, but I've never been to an Ohio State game. Because when I was in Ohio, I was extremely poor. So I could not afford to go to an Ohio State game. I've been in the stadium a couple times for stuff, but never an Ohio State game. It is very hurtful that I never got to go, but you know.
I'm hurt for you, to be honest.
You've seen me in live atmospheres. Am I a live atmosphere guy?
No.
Football's different, though. We've never been to a football game together.
That's also true.
Yeah. Wrestling is such a great experience, and we always end up right behind the guys who are doing everything. And I can't help but watch and see how they're making everything work so smoothly.
Yep, I agree. It's fun to me. I enjoy the TV element of it.
Do have a nephew who's going to Ohio State right now, and a couple of times my sister-in-law has got to go some with him, and he's offered to take my wife to a game, and she's hoping to take him up on it next year because I think he's a senior next year. So it's a pretty good trip. I mean, it's like 10 to 12 hours depending on what time of year to get up there, unless you're flying, of course. Which I had a nightmare last night that I was going to the airport to fly somewhere. Why in the world would I? And so when I found a parking place, I also had to rent a rocking chair and walk around with it. I don't know. It was weird. But I woke up thinking, okay, how stupid is this dream? I'm never going to fly. Why would I dream about flying? I also am 50-ish, Jacob.
50-ish. We're leaning on that ish real hard.
Yeah. You do that so well. QC next break.
You and I were meant to be.
I'm a winner. I know how to win.
Yeah, boy. Welcome back. Hour number 2 with the Rob Brown Show goes now. This is the Fan Upstate. How we doing, y'all? Everybody good? Everybody getting good? Hope so. Midweek edition rolls on. I am the great one. Nope. I am Rob Brown. He is the great one, Lonzo. I'm the average one, Rob Brown. One of many. One of one, the great one, Lonzo.
Come on. You're at least slightly above average.
I'll take it. That's the nicest thing anybody's going to say about me today. So I'll take it. I'll take it.
I hope that's not true. What are you going to do today? Wow.
Changing my my Twitter handle to slightly above average Rob Brown.
So it's a really long title. How much?
The name.
Yeah, but I mean, how much will actually show up when someone is looking through? It's just like slightly above.
It'll just say slightly above Rob Brown. Yeah. We got a lot to get to coming up on the show. 8 o'clock. Den Day ordinarily joins us at 7:40 in this hour, but he's got something to do. So he's going to join us at 8 o'clock. We'll talk some college football with Denton Day, host of Sirius XM's College Football Overtime at 8 o'clock. At 8:40, Mark Bonetti, the voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, is going to join us. We'll talk a little bunny hockey coming up as we get set for a 3-game homestand this week at the Crib back at the Well. And I'm looking forward to that. A lot to talk about in the world of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. We have also got a lot more college football. The text line poll of the day is open, 844-326-3663. Our daily question today is, which of the final 4 teams in the college football playoff do you least want to win the national championship? Text Irish, Longhorns, Buckeyes, or Lions. Text the name of the team. Irish, Buckeyes, Lions, or Irish. To 844-326-3663, 844-FANFONE. Text the team you least want to see win the national championship to 844-326-3663, and we will tabulate those at the end of the show and let you know who the upstate's hating on in the Final Four. So we got that coming up for you later on in the show. But as it is 7:03 in the morning and you have 57 minutes on the dot to get your butt into work, sit down, unlock the computer, respond to those passive-aggressive overnight emails the boss man sent in, and get yourself ready to work, then do what you've been actually wanting to do. That is to step away and to go talk sports with the coworkers. You're going to need to know what's going on. And if you're going to need to know what's going on, well, good news is we're here for you. It's why we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying, "What kind of place is this?"
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the Water Cooler Cheat Sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office this Wednesday morning and start talking sports with your coworkers. We dive right in to our item. I can do this. Number 1. The number 1 basketball team in the country hath fallen for the first time. I got in yesterday in the first article that I read as I did my last-minute show prep before the show was Tennessee strengthens its grasp over the rest of the country on the number 1 ranking. And then they got dumped 73-43 last night by the Florida Gators. Not great, Bob. These are real numbers, not a typo. The Tennessee Volunteers last night had an awful night shooting. They were 12 of 56 from the floor. Now, that's, and I've done the math on this. You know I'm a big numbers guy, Alonzo. 12 of 56 is, statistically speaking, bad. Like below average. Like well below average. Like a lot, but like below average.
How many of those, I don't know if you have that in front of you, how many of those were threes?
29 of them, they made 4.
Wow.
They were 4 of 29 from deep, 12 of 56 overall, 15 of 25 from the stripe. The Gators didn't really have a stellar night. They were 27 of 68 from the floor, 6 of 20 from deep, 13 of 17 from the stripe. They out-rebounded the Volunteers 55 to 38, nearly 20 more boards than the Vols. I don't know what to say other than the Volunteers last night had one of the worst offensive performances in the history of number one basketball teams. It was the worst loss by a number one overall team in 50 years. They got beat by 30 last night. By the way, the Florida Gators also accomplished a little bit of history last night, as they are now the only athletic department to have a 30-point victory over the number one teams in both basketball and football. You'll remember when Florida beat number one Florida State for a natty by 100 points back in, what was it, 96. They became the only team, they, with last night's victory, are now the only college with a 30-point victory over the number one ranked team in both football and basketball after they drummed the Vols last night. Both teams are now 14-1. Both teams are now 1-1 in conference after that dub last night by Florida. This was in Gainesville, by the way. Let's go to item number 2. We continue watching the NFL head coaching carousel begin to gain momentum. Last day, I was going to say last night, it was yesterday. And then I almost said last day. Yesterday, because I'm an idiot.
Last day kind of would have been accurate.
I mean, it would have been, but like nobody says that. Doesn't matter. After his first full season as the head coach, the Las Vegas Raiders fired Antonio Pierce. He is no longer the head coach. They are retaining general manager Tom Telesco, who was hired for the role last season. So for some reason, Antonio Pierce gets the boot as the HC, but the GM who constructed an absolutely and entirely bull roster gets to keep his job. I'll need some explaining for that.
Well, maybe it's one of those things where the owner decided we're going to go this direction, and he didn't let the GM actually do anything. And now there's also a new owner who might have some influence over things.
Tom Brady is the new minority owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, and it was made clear yesterday in multiple reports that Brady will have a voice in the quest for a new head coach. Now, the speculation has started spinning. Okay? The speculation has started spinning. I was going to save this for later on in the show, but I'll play it now. The speculation has started spinning now that Tom Brady will have a voice in the conversation about who the next head coach is. This is Hayes Carlyon, Carlyon. Carlyon. He is a host on 1010XL out of Jacksonville, and here was his take on the hoodie at UNC.
I don't think he's ever going to coach a game there. I mean, I think that he'll be there for 5 weeks, and then an NFL owner will call that loses the Ben Johnson sweepstakes because there's going to be 8 openings, and all 8 of these owners are going to think they're the ones that's going to hire Ben Johnson. Well, only one of them will be. And that's if Ben Johnson even decides to leave Detroit, but I bet you he will, having stayed last year. So you're going to have owners that are like, oh, we didn't get Ben Johnson. What are we going to do now? And when Drew Petzig is there and Liam Cohen are the first 2 guys out of the, advisor's mouth, then you're going to see, I think you're going to see some interest in Belichick. I think he did this for leverage, and I think that it's the perfect scenario because he can be there 5 weeks and then leave North Carolina basically high and dry, and they have no choice but to promote his son, Steve, to be head coach when he leaves him on January 15th.
So Hayes Carlyon says he thinks Hoodie never coaches a game for UNC. Thinks he did it as leverage. I don't understand how that gives him leverage, but hey, what do I know? And that one of the 8 teams, he believes 8, I think it's probably going to be 7, could be 8 though, that does not get Ben Johnson or their choice may decide to slam the emergency button and give Hoodie a call. Well, right after this take kind of started taking off, the Raiders fire Antonio Pierce. Now, in fairness, they were 4-13, but also in fairness, Antonio Pierce last year going into the draft was like on a mic stand, like, yo, I want a QB. In fact, Antonio Pierce said over and over, I want Jaden Daniels. That dog is going to be a dog. I want Jaden Daniels. And the Raiders refused to make a move, refused to make a trade. All of the quarterbacks, Drake May, all of them, were off the board by the time the Raiders made their selection at 13, meaning that he had to roll out there this year with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Now, y'all know I love me some Gardner Minshew. I love some jorts and stash and RV down by a river as much as the next guy. But he ain't a guy that's going to carry a team. So the GM sent him out there with that roster. He goes 4-13. They fire him, but not the GM. And now the smoke is that this is because Brady is trying to sell Mark Davis on bringing in the Hoodie as the head coach. And of course, it would benefit the Belichicks, obviously, because it's so late in the head coaching hiring circuit for college. And who's on the staff there? Hoodie's son, meaning he could just turn the headset over to his kid and they wouldn't have to change anything. I don't necessarily believe that this is going to be the case, but I do find the drama interesting.
By the way, I did mention, I think it was yesterday, that would be funny if he brought in Belichick. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think Belichick stays where he is. I am curious, though, will Tom Brady be better as an owner than Michael Jordan was?
Yeah, I think so, for two reasons. Number one, Brady is still, to me, and this is where I think the disconnect happened with Michael Jordan, I understand that Jordan's mentality won him a fistful of rings. Why do you think we celebrate the mentality of Michael Jordan? Why do you think we celebrate the mentality of Kobe Bryant? Because it's incredibly rare, right? And guys like that, and this is something that creates problems for guys like that. Why do you think when the documentary rolled out, so many guys were so quick to jump on the TV and Michael Jordan into the camera, right? Because the mentality of Michael Jordan is so unique, so rare. It's 1 in a million. The Mamba mentality of Kobe Bryant, so unique, so rare, so 1 in a million, that these guys assume everybody else has that. And they don't, most of them, I don't want to say all of them, most of them do not understand how anybody else cannot think the way that they think, cannot operate the way. Kobe Bryant knew like 4 different languages. And every NBA player had a story of coming in from the bar and Kobe Bryant's in the gym at 3 o'clock in the morning getting his pump on so he can practice at 8 and then go to the gym and then practice again and then go to the gym again, right? And they don't understand how other people don't have that mentality. And the reality is 99% of people don't. I think Jordan came into the Hornets and expected that everybody on that roster and everybody in that front office was going to have that Jordan mentality, and they don't. Brady has that mentality, but I think Brady, especially working with such a much larger roster and coaching staff than Jordan ever had to, I think Tom Brady has figured out how to communicate with the, if you'll pardon the video game expression, the normies. I think he has figured out how to communicate with them and can do so. On top of that, the success that Tom Brady has is 3 years ago. Jordan had been out of the game for a very long time when he stepped back in. Brady is having conversations with guys that are only, the oldest ones are only a handful of years younger than him. Jordan was way aged out of the league at that point. So it's a great thought. It's a great question. I think there are some differences. That being said, I think at the end of the day, Mark Davis is just an inept owner. I think he's just an inept owner. And how many times have I said, I think if you look at the bottom of the barrel, if you look at the teams that are all picking 1 through 9, they're almost exclusively, not all of them, but almost exclusively, they either have an inept owner or they have an owner who has been inept and maybe has finally stepped out of the way, if you get my drift. We'll see. All right, let me quickly get to item number 3. The Atlanta Braves still have not made a preseason move to go find another pitcher. Uncle Charlie Morton has made his way up to the great Northeast, meaning the Braves are down to just a few pitchers. They do not have a rotation right now because they don't have 5 rotation starting pitchers. Now, there's one of two things that's going to happen right now. Either A, they're going to rely on the pitching staff they've assembled in the farm system and hope they hit on a guy like they did last year with Spencer Schwellenbach, which is fair. Or B, there's something cooking. What I do know is you are almost completely out of names on the free agency market. Justin Verlander and the San Francisco Giants are in agreement on a 1-year, $15 million contract. The future Hall of Famer will start at age 42 when he takes to the bump for the G-Men this year. He enters his 20th Major League season, considered one of the best pitchers of his generation. He currently leads all active pitchers in innings pitched, strikeouts, and wins. He is a 3-time Cy Young Award winner, but he is coming off the worst season of his career. He had shoulder and neck injuries, had just 17 starts last year, and over the final 7 starts, posted an 8.1 ERA with a falling strikeout rate and a climbing home run rate. I don't know that this is the stretch that the Giants wanted, but if there was a team that Justin Verlander fits in with, it is the San Francisco Giants, because they have one of the most pitcher-friendly parks in Major League Baseball. Over his career, Verlander 2.62 and 147, a 3.3 career ERA over 3,415 innings pitched, has struck out 3,416 batters, is averaging effectively 1K per inning, walked 952, and does have a pair of World Series rings during his time with the Astros. Returning to Houston was not an option for 2025. Gravitated toward the Giants, where he'll join a rotation that includes Logan Webb, Robbie Ray, Kyle Harrison. There are some other spots, including righty Hayden Birdsong. That could be the 5th man. Verlander will likely slide in the 4th spot of that rotation. I don't tell you that because there's a bunch of G-Men fans out there. I tell you that because there's a bunch of Braves fans out there, and I'm going to keep it a buck. Lonzo knows the cycle of Rob. Optimistic in the preseason, jacked to the moon for the first 3 weeks of the season, 97% of the season slamming the panic button until the Braves get eliminated. I should be in full-on optimist mode right now. I should be full-on, that's it, we're heading back this year. And instead, I'm sitting here going, that's it, we're not even going to be able to field a team next year. We're not even going to have enough pitchers. We're going to end up with like 9. They might call me and ask me if I can go out there and give them 3 solid innings at this point. It's not good. It's not good. The Braves are failing right now. There's no other way to put it. Now, the Braves have worked quietly in years gone by. They've worked quietly, and I hope they work quietly again, and I hope they figure it out. But they ain't yet. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. We'll continue with some college and NFL football talk. Got some other stuff I want to get into and more as the Rob Brown Show rolls on. Rob, Lonzo, you, the Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate.
QC.
All right, guys, quick live, and we're coming right back. Stay right there for me. Thank you.
97.7 FM, 1330 AM, Greenville. 97.1 FM, 950 AM, Parkenburg.
Listen on your phone. Download the Odyssey app and search The Fan Upstate.
There's a whole lot more to talk about now if you really want to go into this subject.
Your smart speaker. Just say play 97 The Fan Upstate. On your HD radio at WFBC HD3. There's just one more thing. And on your computer at The Fan.
FanUpstate.com.
Your guide to the gridiron.
The Rob Brown Show is back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. How do you do, amigos? Great to be with you. Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo. If you want to be a part of the show, now's your chance to do it at 844-326-3663. Call in, be a part of the show. Text in, be a part of the show at 844-326-3663. If you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. Your text message poll question of the day: which of the four semifinal teams do you least wish to see win the national championship? I want you to text Lions, Buckeyes, Irish, or Longhorns to 844-326-3663. Text Longhorns, Irish, Buckeyes, or Lions to 844-326-3663. I have given you my argument for each of the four. You are welcome to text your vote and your reason for it. But in order for your vote to count, your text must start with Lions, Longhorns, Irish, or Buckeyes. Start your text with one of those four words, and then you can tag your reason on to the end of it. But start your text with one of those four team names so that we can log your vote. We will tell you at the end of the show who it is that the Upstate is hating on the most. As it stands right now, in fact, let me pull. Let's see where our vote total is as it stands right now. Great one. We have asked the question. We have gotten a pretty healthy handful of votes so far. As of right now, it is neck and neck. The leading vote getter right now, Lonzo, is Texas. Texas has 35% of the votes. Ohio State is second with 29% of the votes. 24% of the votes go to Notre Dame, and just 12% of the votes go to Penn State right now. So right now, Texas is the team the Upstate least wants to see win the national championship. Tell me who you don't want to see win it. Text 844-326-3663. Start your text with Lions, Longhorns, Irish, or Buckeyes. We will count those votes up and read them for you at the end of the radio broadcast. All right. I talked a little bit about it back in the first hour. I want to talk about it again here very briefly. And I don't want to talk about it just because of the event, though the event was great. The TGL fired up last night, the golf league. I thought it was great. I watched all 2 hours of it. I tuned in right at 9 o'clock. The lady and I watched a couple of episodes of Shrinking, which if you're not watching that on Apple TV, I highly encourage it. It has been since Ted Lasso that I openly laughed at a show. Wife and I we love Shrinking. It's great. We're 5 episodes in so far. It is spectacular. Jason Segel. Harrison Ford is like sneaky one of the funniest people in the game right now. Like his character is phenomenal. Anyway, we were watching that, and then we ended an episode about 9:05, and I was like, all right, I'm going to flip over. She was like, oh, yeah, the golf thing. I said, yeah, we turned it on, and she watched about an hour. She watched up to the intermission, and then she called it a night. I watched the whole 2 hours, and I got to say I loved it. It was entertaining. It was engaging. It was unique. It was different. It was, to me, it was enough golf for golf guys, but it was enough of some dudes having fun hanging out playing video games together for not golf people, right? Like that was the vibe to me. It was golf enough. They've got to hit shots. They've got to shape shots. They've got to play golf. But it was like, I think Scott Van Pelt described it as human beings playing Golden Tee, right? If you didn't watch enough of it, the first handful of holes, did you watch right at the start, Lonzo, or did you kind of check in midway through?
It was about 9:02 or something like that. So they were finishing up the very first one, the very first round, and I forget who won the first one, the first hole or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was.
They had just finished driving, and then they were going to the putting green for the first time.
Okay. The thing that I did not know what they were doing.
They had to take turns, so it's the first what was it? The first 6 holes, they played 15 holes. It was the first 9 were 3-ball alternating. So player 1 hits wherever his ball lands, player 2 hits wherever that ball lands, player 3 hits. Once the putt is made, whoever is the next player up, they go hit the next drive. Because the guy who hit the last shot is like, man, I'm sorry for where I left that for you.
And it's to me, that's entertaining, right? Like having to have that interaction is entertaining. And then the next guy's got to figure out, okay, that's maybe not where I would have played that drive. So now I got to put myself into that mindset. Blah, blah, blah. I thought it was entertaining. And then the back half, the final holes from 10 to 16 were straight up match play, right? Player 1 plays player 1 from the other team. Player 2 plays and they play golf.
So do you believe that their strategy going into it, going, okay, you're going second. Here's where I would like you to put the shot for my second shot. And then that guy, here's where I would love for you to put it on the green.
I have played tournament golf like that before where, maybe player 1 has got a real nice fade and he's able to get the ball over. But player 2 goes, if you do that, it's going to leave me in a spot where you're asking me to hit a 7-iron and that's my worst club or whatever, right? So you got to kind of negotiate where that's going to go. It's entertaining. But what was most entertaining was that it was just the dudes and they were being put in uncomfortable situations because later in the games, though, if you'd watch towards the end of it, they started playing like cyber designed holes, right? So like one of the holes, they called it the spear. And it was you would tee off and the fairways, though, was a big pointed triangle. And that triangle was then point to point with another triangle that opened up this way, back the other way. But the center where it was at its most narrow was right in the average driving range of a PGA Tour pro. So these guys had to decide, am I going to hit it real short and not risk going in the water, but then have a real long second shot to the green? Or do I put all gas, no brakes and try to slam this golf ball knowing that I've got the length to go long, but if I'm left or right at all, I'm gonna be in that narrow spot where the white, like watching them have to navigate, that was interesting. And then when they actually showed how the green works, if you haven't seen it, it looks like something out of the damn X-Men, right? There's a big green, it's called the green zone. There is a green, and underneath the green, there are these big circular discs that are on top of really precise like hydraulic mounts. And they can undulate them. So they can make, this one goes up and that one goes up. And they can shape the green any way they want. And so after these guys hit their balls on the big screen, a light shines down on that green where their ball is on the green based on what happened in the simulator. And they walk up there, put the ball down, and now they got to read the green. And then we got like Lou Vergaber knocked down like a 32-footer. Is one of the most impressive putts I've ever seen. And there's other guys that couldn't get the read on this thing at all because it's not a natural green. It was really interesting. But I'll tell you what I loved about it the most. What I loved the most about it was this. What I loved the most about it was that they showcased the personality of the golfers, but not in a way that it took away from the golf. They showcased the personality of the golfers, but they didn't make it where it overshined what they were doing. I think golf just hit on something spectacular. I think golf just hit on something that I have been begging for baseball and basketball and football to do for years. Show us the personality of the players, but not in a way that detracts from the game. I think basketball has it totally backwards. They dial all in on the player personalities and they don't hype the game. Baseball has it all wrong. They dial in exclusively on the game, but they don't promote the players. Promote the players, let us attach to them personally, and then allow them to promote the game. And if you do that, you're going to get people like my wife, who's now a Wyndham Clark guy. She saw Wyndham Clark play last night. She's like, dude, he is funny. He's entertaining. He's very handsome. I'm like, yeah, shut up. I get it. And now she wants to watch golf just to watch Wyndham Clark.
By the way, it was really cool that they did the interactions that they do during the match between the announcers and the golfers themselves.
Absolutely.
They were all mic'd up. That was kind of cool.
It was awesome. And so you showcase the personality of the golfers while showing how they play golf to make people like my wife want to tail them over to watch them play in actual tournaments, something that they've been struggling to do. I thought this was a brilliant move, and the execution of it, and it felt very modern and contemporary, right? Like it was attention grabbing. It was fast paced. There was music. There was lights. It was entertainment to follow you over to the most boring sport to watch on TV if you don't love golf. I thought that was great. All right, back after this, we'll talk some NFL next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Hey, guys, got to step away for just a minute. Stay right there for me. I'll be right back.
Porky treats.
Bacon centric.
It just sent you something on X. You just need to watch it. Looks like an intense game that we could play here.
The Rob Brown Show continues. It's the fan upstate. Rob, the great one, Lonzo, be a part of the show. 844-326-3663. That's the number if you want to be a part of the show. Now is a spectacular opportunity to do it. 844-326-3663. You can text us at that same number, the day today. What team do you least?
You all right? You need words of encouragement?
Yeah,
or
I just watched what you sent me.
Okay. Did you watch it all the way through?
You
want to play that game on the stream?
Nope, sure don't. I don't need a concussion as you take out your rage and aggression on me over the past 5 years.
I'm old. I mean, I probably don't have that much of a swing.
Last night, great one. I was on BetMGM tonight, as I am every Tuesday. And Brad Evans said, Rob Brown, which player would you put a bet on right now? Which player would you put a bet on right now to win the Super Bowl Most Valuable Player Award? And this is an interesting question. And it is an interesting question to start, Lonzo, because you got to make two projections. You got to make two predictions on this. Projection number one is you got to correctly predict who is going to win the Super Bowl, as obviously like 1,000% of the time, the MVP comes from the winning team. Number two, then you've got to determine who wins the Super Bowl and who's going to have a standout game. Now, the easy thing to do here is to jump right in and to go with
Taylor Swift.
Because she's a warlock with magical powers. Her songs aren't number one hits. They're dark art incantations. And the reason that the NFL went out of the way to promote her nationally and get her more attention is so that the hex, which scatters across America when Taylor tells us to shake it off, finally, the magic is no longer just in Kansas City. They're winning with blocked field goals and doinks all over America now. It's unavoidable. But Taylor Swift is a witch, jokes aside. By the way, Tay-Tay, still heart hand emoji you. Okay? It's all love. I struggled with that question. Great one. And here's why.
Well, there's an easy answer, and it's probably, I don't know. I mean, the easiest answer would be to go with Patrick Mahomes.
It would be, except for, I think that we have got to genuinely take a look at what Patrick Mahomes has been this season, which is average. I mean, he's been average. That's just statistically speaking.
Here's what he's done. He's done what he normally does. And at the end of the game, does the things that he needs to win the game, which on that scale for the Super Bowl, if it's a game-winning drive and he comes out and he drives down in 12 seconds and throws a touchdown pass, he's going to get the MVP because it's the biggest play, the most outstanding thing. I mean, something that really stood out during the Super Bowl. It's going to get that for you.
I would say this. I don't think, and this I don't know if this is if there's some sort of bias that I am going through here, but I genuinely don't think that that what Mahomes has done this year is something that jumps off the page. I mean, he got almost 4,000 yards.
That has nothing to do with playing Super Bowl.
I understand that, but I don't know why, and I guess this is the conversation here. I don't know why it is that I would expect that a guy who played 16 games this year at a good level, but again, and this is credit to Andy Reid and the Chiefs, they built this team so that they don't have to have Patrick Mahomes be magic every game to win every game. They built this team to be able to lean on that defense very heavily, on Chris Jones very heavily. They built this team to be able to lean on Travis Kelce. They went and got Xavier Worthy, who's been a revelation this year. They built this team in a way that I think other NFL teams should emulate. Yes, go get a franchise quarterback, but then build the team in a way that if he's not perfect one day, you don't go, okay, he's not perfect, they lose this game.
All right, so I'm just looking through a list of Super Bowl MVPs, the majority of which are quarterbacks. So if it's not Patrick Mahomes, it's probably going to be whatever quarterback wins.
Again, I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying here is, if I have to make, and the reason I'm saying it this way,
there have been a couple of, all right, more than a couple, a few defensive players that have won it. Like Ray Lewis has won it. Von Miller has won it. Malcolm Smith. These are guys who had stellar games, or like Malcolm Smith won for Seattle, had one interception for TD, one fumble recovery, and 10 tackles. So I'm guessing those, although I watched the Super Bowl, I don't remember that one, that those were so impactful that it made it stand out to the degree that they went, that was the guy that's the MVP of this game. I don't think it matters what you've done all year. It's what you do in that game.
I understand that. I don't disagree. So let me clarify again. I'm not arguing with you. I agree with that. What I am saying is, I can't just say that you get there and there's going to be a magical flip switch where all of a sudden this is why I frame everything. Somebody asked me on the text line a day or two ago, why do you frame everything in a sports gambling mentality? And I'll tell you the reason why. I think more people that do my job, I'm not saying fans, but I think more people that do my job need to put their money where their mouth is. This is why I despise hot takes. Because we live in this world where you throw out 50 hot takes and a guy jumps on the radio the next day and he just hammers the one that he got right, and we all ignore the 49 he got wrong. The reason I frame everything from a sports gambling perspective is because if I'm going to make a bet on it, you better damn well believe I'm going to go with something I truly believe, not just be saying something for the sake of getting attention like many people in my industry do. So if I'm putting my money on it, I am not going to put my money on Patrick Mahomes played 16 games, played well, but he wasn't the centerpiece of this team. Even if I do believe, and I said this to Brad Evans last night, and I kind of made this the same Taylor Swift joke about it, but I got no reason to believe anybody but Kansas City's winning the Super Bowl. I would feel differently if Detroit was fully healthy. I think Detroit can beat Kansas City if they're fully healthy, but they got 11 starters on defense and 17 of them are out injured. Like it's not happening. Not with that many bang-ups on the defensive side of the football, specifically against Andy Reid and the Chiefs.
So you talk about Patrick Mahomes having a not normal season for himself, but they changed their offense. They're not a big play offense anymore. They dink and dunk. That's what they do. Once again, not disagreeing. But if that is the case, then it doesn't require an MVP performance out of Mahomes. Would you have a problem if I said Nuke Hopkins is my MVP choice?
No, I wouldn't. I don't have a problem if you said him. I don't have a problem if you say Xavier Worthy. I don't have a problem if you say Isaiah Pacheco. I don't have a problem if you say Travis Kelce. And frankly, and this is why it's interesting, I think you have as good of a chance that you have one of those guys pop off and have a day and win it. Now, it makes it tougher for the wide receiver because if Nuke goes out there and has 175 and 2 touchdowns, that means Mahomes is probably getting 300 yards. And if he goes for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, even if they all go to D-Hop, they're still going to give it to Mahomes, right? Mahomes is, I think, at this point, and this is not me banging the drum as an anti-Mahomes guy. I love Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is like the one guy in sports that voter fatigue doesn't seem to be real, right? Like there's a lot of folks on the social media landscape right now.
To make the Pro Bowl, right?
Well, again, there's no reason for him to have. He's not a Pro Bowl quarterback this year.
Don't the fans have part of
but it's media and players too. And again, I don't even think fans are gonna. I don't think he didn't get in because of voter fatigue. I think he didn't get in because he's not a Pro Bowl quarterback this year. They haven't leaned on him. Pro Bowlers are guys you lean on. They haven't had to lean on him, and it's good, by the way. I'd rather win 100. I'd rather win 1 Super Bowl than go to the Pro Bowl 10 times, right? Like that's just me. So. My thought here is I wouldn't be upset with you going anybody on this Chiefs offense if that's the MVP vote. My question is there anybody else that you would take the risk on?
Oh, I would prefer it be Chris Jones win it because that would mean a dominant defensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, depending on who you get out of the NFC, honestly, I think if you get Detroit, Chris Jones becomes an absolute potential get there. Jared Goff is a good quarterback. He's playing good football, but Jared Goff's a bit of a statue, right? If he's going to stand in that pocket and Kansas City can do a good job with coverage sacks, Chris Jones will have 5 or 6. Chris Jones gets 5 sacks. He's the MVP at that spot. So I think there's other guys, but I'm even saying, is there anybody from another team that you're willing to vote MVP right now? Are you willing to take a stab at Josh Allen, the guy who's going to win the NFL MVP for the league? Are you willing to take a stab at Lamar? They talked to Lamar did a presser yesterday.
I would go with Lamar. Josh Allen's not going to make it to the Super Bowl because they're not going to get past Baltimore. But I would Lamar probably.
I mean, Lamar's a good stab. Lamar yesterday did a press conference. They were talking to him about the playoffs, and they're like, yo, let's call it a buck. You guys have struggled in the playoffs. Why do you think that is? And Lamar was like, yo, this team gets we've gotten the jitters. And I think we've gotten that, hopefully, we've gotten that knocked out of us.
Are there odds out there yet for that sort of thing?
Yeah, Brad had them last night. Let me see if I can find it.
I wonder how much money I'd make if I put a little cash down on Sam Darnold.
Probably enough to retire, I would guess right now. If I had to guess, I'd say enough to retire. Sam Darnold's going to be sitting at I don't know, 75-1 would be my guess. We'll see if I can find it.
If you have extra money, isn't that the kind of bet you make, though?
Super Bowl winner right now. The Lions are plus 275, favored over the Chiefs, who are plus 350. The next closest team, the Ravens and the Bills, are both 6-1. The Eagles 7-1. Everybody else is 16-1 or longer. Vikings 16, Packers 18, Bucks are 30-1. Chargers 35-1, Rams 35-1. So are the Commanders. The Broncos are 80-1. The Texans and the Steelers are both 100-1 to win the Super Bowl. Your Super Bowl MVP odds as they stand right now: Mahomes is 4-1, Goff is 5-1, Allen is 6.5-1, Jackson is 7-1. Everybody else is 15-1 or longer. Jalen Hurts is 15-1. And then you drop off. Jamar Gibbs, 16. Saquon, 20-1. Sam Darnold, 22-1. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 25-1. Jordan Love, 33-1. So is Baker Mayfield. Derrick Henry. Justin Herbert is 35-1. How about Justin Herbert is a wild shot there? Honestly. I mean, there's some teams out there a little afraid of the Chargers. By the way, did you see this thing where
they should be afraid of the Chargers?
If the Rams and the Chargers were to both make it to their conference championship game, what happens? Because they share a stadium, and both conference championship games are on the same day within 30 minutes of each other. What happens if both these teams make it to the conference championship game? One just moves to Saturday, right? They just go, sorry, Chargers, you got the short end. You're playing Saturday night. Rams play Sunday, or vice versa. What do they do?
The championship games are on the same day.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Don't wouldn't you have to move one to a different day? I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out. All right. I'm also excited to see what Denton Day has to say about our college football playoff Final Four. We will talk to the host of College Football Overtime on Sirius XM when we come back here in a minute. I am Rob. He is Lonzo, and now he is going to educate you with his sports flash.
South Carolina women's basketball standout Ashlyn Watkins will miss the remainder of the season after tearing her ACL, according to the athletic department. The injury came in the first half of a 95-68 win over Mississippi State Sunday. The 6'3" forward was averaging 7.2 points and a team-high 6.4 rebounds across 14 appearances. The Gamecocks play Texas A&M Sunday, then 5 consecutive ranked SEC opponents afterwards. Zion Williamson returned to the New Orleans Pelicans lineup last night, recording 22 points in just under 28 minutes of play. Williamson also had 6 boards, 4 assists, 3 steals, and a block in a 104-97 loss to Minnesota. Williamson has played in just 7 of the Pelicans' 37 games this season. Tune in tonight, 6:30, as the Furman Paladins take on the Citadel Bulldogs. It's Furman versus Citadel right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball, the Fan Upstate. Saquon will be a good choice too, Brandon. So according to the odds that Rob just read, it's the 2 number 1 seeds playing for the Super Bowl. I wonder how often that has happened. I'll have to look that up. I'm not quite sure. How many times do you think the number 1 seed in the AFC has played the number 1 seed in the NFC in the Super Bowl?
Probably a few.
Okay, according to Google AI, the 2 number 1 seeds have faced one another in the Super Bowl just 14 times before. Okay. Most recently in 2023 when the Chiefs beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. So I'm just curious, how often does Vegas get it right?
A lot.
Because right now, I mean, what you said, the best odds are Detroit and Kansas City, and they're both ranked first in both of their divisions.
Denton Day. Who's going to the Super Bowl, big dog?
The Commanders. No, probably Philadelphia.
Bang, bang. I like that. That's my shadow pick too.
Just about Jaden Daniels and him saying how good Jaden Daniels is. So if he goes to the Super Bowl, it's vindication.
Not saying, being right about.
Well,
let's be clear.
Okay.
Being right about.
All right. How certain are you of that happening now?
If when Jaden Daniels wins the Offensive Rookie of the Year, I'm buying my PlayStation. That's how certain I was. I drove to Asheville to put a bet in on that. That's how certain I was. It was a layup.
7-1 too, or like plus 750 because Caleb was so huge on the odds.
I had him when the lines first opened and got it at 17-1.
Oh, geez, Louise.
Yeah.
You might buy 2 PlayStations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a PlayStation and an Xbox.
Down payment on a car at that number, 17-1.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't bold enough to put like a huge bet on it. Now I regret that.
He didn't say how much money he put down on it, but
I think I put $30 on it. But still,
that's pretty good.
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it.
Their defense is just terrible. That's their problem.
I'll take. I took Washington. You're giving me Washington, and you're giving me points this weekend. Yes, please.
Oh yeah, I taped a video about how they're going to win. Yeah, I mean they're beating Tampa Bay. Then it becomes a question of who they play next.
Yep.
I'm a winner. I know how to win.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hour numero tres of the Rob Brown Show gets underway right now. The midweek edition, carrying you all the way up till 10 a.m. this and every weekday morning. My name is Rob Brown, which is convenient because if it wasn't, it'd be a weird name for the show. On the other side of the metaphorical glass, the guy in charge of this and every radio program you've ever listened to anywhere at any time on any radio station, the great one Lonzo is here as well. And you're welcome, America. We now, via the technology of the modern era, on video in living color and in your ear holes if you're listening on the radio. He is the host of College Football Overtime on Sirius XM Radio. He is the illustrious Denton Day joining us here on the show. What's up, big dog?
Fellas, we are almost at national championship time. We got 2 great games this week, but we are almost at national championship time, and it's NFL playoff time. Best time of the year.
Do not disagree at all. It's this spot Denton Day where on one hand I'm jacked about the semis, I'm jacked about a natty. It's the best night of the sports calendar. On the flip side, I'm real sad because we are about to enter our 200 day college football hibernation, which just means soak it in, baby. Soak it in.
You got to enjoy the ride. I mean, the nice part about these extended playoffs is that the absence of college football is now much shorter because really the national championship in most years was played 2 days ago. And now we get another 2 weeks of it. So I'm with you. I'm enjoying this ride. And I know that window is shrinking. Plus then we get the silly season, the transfer portal stuff, which that seems to never stop. So we'll have content. There's no doubt about that.
Always with the hashtag content. Denton Day joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. All right, before we get into the semifinals, I want to throw something at you. We talked a little bit about this on this show on Monday. Cody Decker, my Saturday co-host on Bet for the Cycle, which airs every Saturday from noon to 4 on the BetQL Network, hashtag shameless self-promotion. Cody Decker said that this playoff has been kind of a bummer, kind of a dud, kind of a letdown. He pointed out the 4 blowouts in round number 1. He pointed out that at best you could argue that 2 games in round 2, Georgia Notre Dame and Texas Arizona State, were in any way, shape, or form worth watching. And then he pointed out that he feels like the Texas Arizona State game was ruined by the non-targeting call to the point of not being able to enjoy it because he thought it was a fraud. Cody Decker is out on the 12-team playoff format. Now, he did not clarify if he wants to go to 16, down to 8, or just he's out entirely. Where we stand now with 3 games left to play, what's your overall opinion on this bracket? Do we have the right format, or do we need to tinker a little bit?
I mean, you have the right number of teams. I don't know what Cody in particular was expecting. It sounded like he was just getting mad at everything. I mean, was he going to get mad at the weather in certain games too? I mean, there was a lot there. If you thought this was going to be March Madness in its first year, that's on you. You should have listened to anybody smart. You, Rob, me, anyone was going to tell you this was not going to be something that is just filled with upsets immediately. It was never designed to be that. It was designed to, over the course of time, potentially get there and level the playing field out a little bit. But if you thought that there were going to be massive upsets or every game was going to be great, you've never watched the college football playoff, period. Even when there's 4 teams, there's never been great games, because the simple fact of this sport is, as great as it is, its biggest flaw, so to speak, is that there's a very big difference between the haves in the sport and the have-nots. Now, what we have seen is that Arizona State game. I thought that was a perfect amalgamation of what you want this to be, because that's a team that nobody had heard of, led by a player that nobody knew, and most people now think his name is funny because Scatterbo is a fun thing to say. Taking it to one of the most well-renowned programs in the history of the sport. The targeting calls sucked, and I understand if you want to be upset about that, especially if you're an Arizona State fan. But then you also had opportunities to win that game in overtime and failed to do so. And we got an overtime thriller in a college football playoff game. I think it's been exactly what I expected, and I never thought I might have thought that SMU had a chance against Penn State. However, outside of that, I never thought that this was going to be filled with upsets yet. You got to give it some time. It'll get there eventually, but it's not there yet.
It's interesting to me. You know, we came into this thing and I said, I think 16 is probably too many. I think there's a handful of years that you could argue the best team in college football would have been ranked 5 through 8. I mean, here we are sitting here with seeds 5, 6, 7, and 8 are the 4 teams that have moved on. I think like maybe lottery pick somewhere you could say, oh, the 9th team would have made it competitive. The problem, Denton Day, is I think we learned the buys maybe aren't as positive as we thought they were. All 4 teams that had to sit out 3 weeks coming off that bye week got beat in round number 2, which means that if you want to eliminate them, if you want to, and they may not want to, if you want to, you either got to go back down to 8 or you got to go up to 16. And after what we saw, I think going to 16 would just be a mistake at this point. 16
is too many teams. I mean, I could argue 12 might be too many. I like the 12 format. My thought was always 8, because there's never been a year, Rob, where there has been more than 5, 6, or 7 teams that you can look at and say, that's a championship contending team. There just isn't. I think the bye situation you're dead on with. What they need to do is kind of shorten the amount of time between conference championship and round 1. Because what happened was Oregon went nearly a calendar month without playing football. Like, think of that. You go a calendar month without playing football, and then who do you start with? Ohio State. This dominant defense. And that to me, like the Rose Bowl to me was the national championship. I think Ohio State's going to end up running the table here. But going a month without playing football, I don't care how hard you practice. And there are rules around how hard in college you're allowed to, because, again, they are student, wink, wink, athletes. So you can't do certain things. They're not professionals. There's nothing you can do in practice to simulate a game time speed against Ohio State. Or if you're Georgia, there's nothing you can do to simulate a game time speed against Notre Dame or whoever it was, Boise against Penn State, you name it. So that they need to shorten. If you shorten the distance between conference championship and the first round, then you leave it and make it a little easier for the teams coming off of a bye to then play. And then, like, we have 10 days in certain instances between the first round and the second round. Like, there are little things that you can shorten up to make it easier on teams with buys to then make buys more beneficial. Because what you're going to see if they don't make any adjustments is teams are going to be ducking the buy. I can't blame them.
And that was my thought. Like, for all the conversation about conference championship games and all that, I kind of think at this point, like, and I think Oregon Penn State right out of the gate served as the example. If we could, knowing what we know now, obviously hindsight being 2020, Denton Day, if I went and told the Ducks, hey, if you lose the Big Ten championship game, you're going to get SMU in round 1, Boise State in round 2, and Notre Dame coming off of a game where they get into a fist fight with Georgia in round 3. Yeah, you got to play one more game. I think they would have happily flipped with Penn State in that spot. And so my question is, if you end up in a spot where, the SEC has a conference championship game with 2 one-loss teams or an undefeated and 1 loss, the Big Ten, the same situation, why would I want to win that game? Why would I try to win that game if I'm watching and the 6th seed has an easier path? And it looks like that might just be the way it works out, where the 6th seed is always going to have an easier path to the title than the 1 seed. Why would I want to win that thing?
Exactly. There's no incentive to do that, because on top of that, you then miss out on a home game. And, these teams get paid out depending on how far their conferences go, and that's all good and dandy. But the gates at the home games, those are yours. Like, Ohio State isn't giving Michigan any of the money that they made when their stadium was filled for that Tennessee game. You keep all that money, so you're potentially really hurting your team in the quest for a championship, and then you're missing out on millions of dollars that you would get from having a home game. There's no incentive to take the bye right now. That needs to be adjusted as we move forward if we're going to keep this model, because what you can't have, like I'm pleading the college football playoff, Rob, to be ahead of this. So what we do not have is teams then deciding to play me at quarterback in a conference championship game because they don't want to win.
We are talking to Denton Day, the host of College Football Overtime on Sirius XM. Joins us on Wednesdays, ordinarily at 7:40, but he had some super top secret international man of mystery stuff he had to deal with this morning. So joining us here in this segment, let's dive into Denton Day, the semifinal games upcoming, and we will start with the one that I think is, at least right now, the more interesting of the 2 games, which is Penn State and Notre Dame. There's something jumped off at me, and I went and looked last night and found somebody who did a great write-up of it. Notre Dame plays man-to-man press defense at an almost 60% clip. It is one of, if not the highest in FBS football. Drew Aller's efficiency against man-to-man press drops exponentially compared to throwing the ball against the zone. Is it bananas that one stat alone has me thinking Notre Dame's the right pick here?
Not bananas, no, because that's a relevant stat. Drew Aller has struggled in tight man coverage. He's not used to throwing into tight windows. He's much more comfortable when there is a little bit of wiggle room, if you will, to get the ball to his receiver. Warren are not exactly great at separation. What I think Penn State has that Notre Dame is going to find very difficult is the running game. And getting to use Drew Aller in the running game. They might be able to hit Notre Dame with a little bit of their own medicine. The difference is that Katron Allen and Nick Singleton are they're the second best running back duo in the country to Ohio State's Henderson and Judkins. But those 2 guys in particular, with Singleton and Allen, they could make Notre Dame's life on defense very, very difficult for 60 minutes.
Denton Day joining us here on the show. It's a weird spot, because I'm also looking at Riley Leonard and what he can do with the legs. And, Penn State has so far, Denton Day, in my opinion, Penn State has pinned the ears back and gotten after guys. They got after Kevin Jennings in round 1. They got after Ashton Jeanty, and I had somebody text the show go, we got 103. Yeah, it took him 30 carries. I mean, it took the majority of Boise State's plays to get him.
They were stat-padding at the end, too.
100%. So they were getting after Ashton Jeanty in this game. I think they're going to pin the ears back and get after Notre Dame. I just think Notre Dame has more talent spread around more evenly, and Riley Leonard, though he doesn't necessarily want to, can take off and get out of the pocket if he needs to. I don't think Penn State can be as aggressive defensively as they've been in the 2 games leading up to this, and if that's the case, that's what's been winning Penn State football games. I'm worried about that.
I think they are going to be aggressive, though. I think they're going to be aggressive at Riley Leonard. The thing that Penn State needs to do, Rob, that's going to really stifle what Notre Dame wants to do is get a lead. You get a lead early, and you stay that lead early, and you get to the 3rd quarter, and let's just say even if it's only 7 points, 10 points, can Riley Leonard throw it? Because he didn't have 100 yards against Georgia. He's not exactly your slinging around the yard kind of quarterback in an era of college football where we are very used to guys slinging it around the yard. So what happens in the event where Penn State does get after Riley Leonard at Notre Dame, and then all of a sudden he has to throw it because the run game isn't being as effective? And, I'm hoping that Jeremiah Love is going to be good to go. I'm not 100% sure whether he will or not. That's going to hurt Notre Dame's rushing offense as well. If Riley Leonard can't throw the football, which he hasn't really proven against good teams that he can effectively, Notre Dame's going to be in a lot of trouble. So they need to do everything in their power to make sure Penn State doesn't jump out to a lead.
Let's talk about the other one. We got the Texas Longhorns, the Ohio State Buckeyes. I am all over the Buckeyes in this one, and it's not just because they've been steamrolling everybody in these playoffs. It's not just because Will Howard is on the You America tour right now because the haters were hating loud and Will Howard stepping up. On top of all that, dude, I don't believe in Quinn Ewers at all. I think Quinn Ewers is the most overhyped college football player we've seen in a long time. I think he's good Denton Day. I don't think he's compare with really anybody that's won a title good before. Texas has provided him with elite weapons all over the field, and Quinn Ewers has been good enough. And I don't think he's out-dueling Will Howard, at least not the playoff. He's like playoff P, the way that Will Howard has turned it on at this point.
Do you think, so is what you're telling me is that you don't think Quinn Ewers is worth $6 million?
Yeah, I don't think Quinn Ewers ought to be driving a Lambo is all I'm saying.
No, I mean, this one is, I think there's a lot of people that are in the same boat as you, Rob, and I'm in the same boat. I got Ohio State when that line opened at 4.5, and now it's like 7. And I was like, I can't believe that a Vegas line maker put that thing out at 4.5. Think it was one of the very rare times, Rob, where I was like, I got one on Vegas. Because we know those buildings were not made with good luck. So I like Ohio State in this one, but I do think I think the public is going to be way too on Ohio State for my liking. So I think I'm going to have myself a nice little sandwich and get like Texas 6.5 or 7, Ohio State 4.5. The Buckeyes defense is really like, you focus on the Will Howard tour, and I think you're right because that second touchdown to Emeka Mbuka was a dime. Yep. I was like, where has this Will Howard been? But really what I learned from that game against Oregon, it was really validation. Their defense is the best since those Georgia teams. They are so good, and they are so good everywhere. And they showed a graphic up while watching the Rose Bowl that I thought really hammered this home. In an era of college football where there's so much jumping around and guys leaving and going to different directions, Ohio State's defense is filled with guys that has been there for years. Like, they got dudes that have been in that program for 3, 4, 5 years. And when you can have that and guys who are good at and have been in the program for 3, 4, 5 years, understanding exactly what your role is, what the framework of the defense is and how I play into it, that's why they've been so good. There's been one team that scored 3 touchdowns on Ohio State. It was Oregon. They did it twice, but one of them was garbage time. One of the touchdowns was garbage time. Obviously, they beat Ohio State earlier in the season, but nobody else has had offensive success against Ohio State. Now, I do trust Sark. I think Sark is the best offensive play caller in college football, and you want to talk about exciting. Sark versus Jim Knowles, the Ohio State defensive coordinator. Sign me up for 60 minutes of that. I think that's going to be technician versus technician, but there's no way that I look at what Texas did against Arizona State and could feel thrilled with them walking into to play the Buckeyes, who did what they just did to Oregon.
I've watched the last handful of minutes of that Arizona State-Texas game a number of times. And listen, I got a lot of respect for Arizona State. I think you and I talked about this last week. That team has not gotten the credit that they deserve. Mm-hmm. Cam Scattaboo is like a 1970s running back transported to 2024. Fun to watch play. That's all well and good. I'm not this guy when it comes to analysis, Denton Day, but in this case, I will be. The Sun Devils just ain't what Ohio State is right now. And if that's the fight you had to fight through to get to overtime with Arizona State. And by the way, and again, the targeting thing, and I'll ask you about that before we let you go here in a second. That targeting gets called targeting. Arizona State wins that game. We're not having this conversation today. That's enough for me to say Buckeyes. And if I can get them, and by the way, if I took them at the 5.5 when they were there, they're floating at -6 on BetMGM. I've encouraged people, get them before it goes to 7.5 because I think it is.
It'll get there. It'll definitely get there to 7.5.
All right, let's talk real quick because we got about a minute left. That targeting call. Let me tell you where I'm at, and then you call me a lunatic, call me a loser, or justify me, Denton Day. I understand why they didn't call it targeting, and I don't think it's. I'm the first one. I'm the first one, as I did with Florida State, Alabama, to absolutely believe that there are conspiracy theories set up to make sure the SEC has a dog in the fight. That's what I believed happened with Alabama last year. I can understand the no targeting call there. Technically speaking, there was no crouch, there was no explosion, there was no attack, and that word attack is what I lean on. It was a form tackle that unfortunately ended up hitting the guy in the head. I can understand. I'm not saying I agree with it. I can understand why there was a no call in that spot.
I understand it. I'm with you. I don't agree with it. I think the defenseless thing should have resulted in that being targeting. What I definitely do not agree with is this, not that you were saying this, but this mass conspiracy that led to the officials making that call. If you want to argue the Florida State-Alabama thing, we can have that conversation. There might be something there. But the idea that there is this secret network of people that are making sure, like this is, remember those Buffalo Wild Wings commercials back in the day where they're like, hey, we're having a great time. And they phone into a guy who puts the sprinkler up, guy trips on a go-ahead touchdown. This isn't that. That was a bad call, but I don't think it cost Arizona State an opportunity to win. And that stinks. It didn't cost them the game because they had more opportunities after that. Should that have been called? Absolutely. I think it was a defenseless receiver, head-to-head contact. That is the top priority when it comes to targeting. But I can understand why the official maybe did not call it, because they were looking at some of the things like you mentioned, attacking and launching and crown of the helmet. Because I do think in all of the years that we've had targeting, it's become a little muddled because of crown of the helmet, attacking and launching.
Which you can make the argument it was crown of the helmet. I don't think it was. I thought it was forehead. That's not crown, technically speaking. I did not see a crouch. He ran through the tackle the way that when I used to coach Little League football, I taught my kids to run through a tackle. You don't stop and pop. You put your sight on the target and you run. I thought he did everything right. Unfortunately, homeboy caught the ball and kind of turned and dropped like a runner, and it's just unfortunate. That's where I landed on that whole thing. Denton Day is the host of College Football Overtime on Sirius XM. So you are going Penn State. You're going Ohio State.
Yep. I think we see a rematch of James Franklin's worst fear.
Ooh, let's get spicy. Somebody's narrative's getting busted. Denton Day hosts Sirius XM's College Football Overtime. You can find him on Twitter at the Denton Day. My man, you are phenomenal. Talk to you next week, brother.
Fellas, appreciate it.
Any and every time. My guy, Denton Day from Sirius XM's College Football Overtime. We are going to I was trying to make a time joke there. We're out of time
for the segment.
The Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate.
Pan, you think that was in that video?
Do what?
In that video?
Oh, I don't know. It dented real easy, but I can't tell if it dented or he dented it.
Like a salad?
Probably. Right back. tape machines.
I'm gonna figure out if I need contingencies for Saturday.
For what? Oh.
Snow. I mean, if it's
Oh, gotcha.
yeah. I always play it as I believe it when I see it as far as snow because they've predicted so many times around here it's going to happen, and then halftime is there's not going to be an accumulation. And you look out, oh no.
That one bumper song is stuck in my head every time.
Yeah, we probably got flagged for it because licenses change. Okay.
Or shizzle.
You listen to any of Rich Eisen?
Yeah, I listened to a couple minutes the last couple of days. I like Rich's show.
I've always watched his podcast, his TV show, so
Yeah.
it's not going to be that much different than that, I don't think. I
like
came in here the first day and listened the first 10 minutes just to make sure that it worked. I like him as long as Michigan doesn't beat Ohio State. Then I don't like him for a while. Because he will jab an entire year, which he should do. Absolutely. Was he talking wrestling yesterday? Cool. He's had a handful of those guys on his podcast interviewing them. Since they were in LA, probably had more.
Rich was talking wrestling yesterday, so he's got my support.
Rob just doesn't really hear me.
I'm not gonna lie, I was reading a message from the boss, so I was kind of checked out there. That's on me. But when the boss says, I need you to do this thing, I have to pay attention to it.
He said, just deal with Lonzo for another hour and a half.
Yep, that's exactly.
Then it's over.
That's exactly what he said. Are you reading my emails?
There's a reflection in the TV back there, and yeah.
Oh.
I don't know if this is real or not, but DeAndre Hopkins saw less than 50% of regular season snaps in 2024, meaning the Chiefs will send the Titans a 2025 fifth-round pick instead of a potential fourth.
Oh, conditional picks. Yes, Pat McNeil, DBA, Spike Callahan. We have switched out. Rich Eisen is now on noon to 3.
Jim Rome moved to a different company and changed his time slot. He's now noon to 3. Yeah. No, 3 to 6. My bad. We already have a show during that time, so . I'll be listening to the show a little bit more today because I need to put together some promos for Eisen. So
The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Bit of a short segment here. So I want to play this. By the way, and I'll start with this by saying I want to sing a congratulations to colleague, comrade, and off-air friend Nick Costos. Nick has been hosting a show called You Better You Bet on the BetQL network for many years now. Well, just a couple of weeks ago, You Better You Bet got picked up by and is now simulcast on Peacock by NBC. So Nick, who is obviously still doing the show for the BetQL network, is now simulcast on Peacock, which is awesome. We've had Nick on the show a number of times over the years. Nick's your classic New York City kind of sports fan, right? Like he gets a little heated. I've told you before. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I am somebody who appreciates validation, right? I appreciate validation. When I have a take and then somebody doing a national show in the national spotlight echoes that take, I go, maybe I'm not a gigantic moron like I'm told I am very regularly, right? So I was scrolling around yesterday listening. As I've told you, I listen to as much as I can get my earballs on as often as I possibly can. Back on Monday, I told you I was real heated, and I believe that NFL rivalries are dead because the New Orleans Saints just kind of rolled over and let Mike Evans get his 1,000-yard mark, whereas I would have put 6 guys on him and stopped him. And a lot of you guys were like, you absolute moron. Well, here's Nick Costos, nationally syndicated television and radio host.
So the Buccaneers say, you know what? Instead of just going to the playoffs, let's get Mike Evans the record. You know what? If Tampa wants to do that, that's their prerogative. Who I'm really pissed off at is the New Orleans Saints. This is professional football. You don't just let this guy get 1,000 receiving yards and celebrate in your faces. It's professional football. If I were Darren Rizzi and I were the New Orleans Saints, I would have put all 11 guys on that field on Mike Evans and said, you guys can score a touchdown on this play, but Mike Evans is not getting this record over our dead bodies. You want to get the record? You get it in the flow of play. The game's over at this point. No, you don't get to do this. And the Saints let it happen, and it made me sick. And good for Mike Evans. I would have done the same thing if I were Mike Evans. But New Orleans, you let that happen when there's no question that's what they're doing. An absolute disgrace to competition and professionalism last night from the New Orleans Saints. Pathetic.
Pathetic. Nick Costos from the BetQL Network and on Peacock there with the take. Similar to the take. I feel like mine was angrier, though. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I had a little bit more intensity there than Nick did. No, again, it made me feel like rivalries are cooked.
He sounded more angry than you did.
Yeah, that was a joke. I will never have Costos anger in my life. I will never have Costos
He's
anger.
got some Mark Levin vibes to his anger. You know, I think he always sounds a little bit angry.
Yeah, and he's got that kind of gravelly voice anyway.
Yeah.
And for the record, and I'll tell you this, and I don't mean to blow his cover, so I hope I'm not. I've done shows with Nick Costos before. I filled in on You Better You Bet for a number of times. I've done shows with Nick. You take Nick off the air, Nick's the nicest guy, dude. Like, I joined in on him at one point. We were talking. I was doing a show with him, I think last, like in the fall of last year, and he showed up, and he had just finished up his arm sleeve tattoo, right? And I was asking him about it. And I was like, yeah, like I've always wanted a sleeve tattoo, but like I got these chicken wing arms. I got these skinny ass little arms. I can't do you can't have skinny little arms like mine and be cool with sleeves. And he goes, I got you. And like a minute later in my email, he sent me like, he's a big workout guy, like big gym guy. Sent me like his entire workout, all his diet plans. He's like, I mean, I looked at it and I was like, damn, this is intense. He's like, yeah, I got you, dude. Like, I got you. Do this and you will be able to rock a sleeve tattoo. It was fun. He's like the nicest guy. But the point is, yes to that take. Yes to that take. Why are you just letting this happen? Why are you just letting that guy flex on you like that? I despise it. I can't stand it. It made me sick. I agree. So, just pure validation. Texas said, boy, that guy sounds about as mad as little Shane Beamer from the bowl game. Calm down, little guy. Woof. Woof. That's the kind of smack talk we're here for. All right, let's get into some more NFL as we get set for Wild Card Weekend here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Sorry, Super Wild Card Weekend. Sorry, Roger.
It's too late.
Super Wild Card Weekend. My bad, Roger.
You go get a memo.
Yes, Costos does look like he's straight off an episode of the Jersey Shore. You were exactly correct. He does. Oh, we got Mark Benetti coming up. Hey, guys, we got to step away for a minute while we get Mark lined up. Be right back.
I give up on small talk. Even when I practice, I'm just not good at it. I don't know why. I don't think it can be sarcastic and, oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
What's up, everybody? Nick Costos here from Baby Wells. You better, you bet. The bracket is set, and the road to the big game in New Orleans begins now. Join me and Sam Panayotovich.
Gonna have to go look for you. I mean, just take your time. I mean,
I had to pee.
yeah, what did you and Chris talk about?
I didn't see Chris.
Leaving a guest waiting. It's horrible. And all the nice things that I just said about you to Mark Benetti, take it all back.
They had Horvat on Wire to Wire yesterday. Apparently they were talking about it, but I haven't gone back to listen to it yet. As we wind down the college football season, as we wind down the National Football League season, that means one thing and one thing only. Hockey is metaphorically heating up. It's a hockey segue.
Yeah, and where's the horn, dude? I mean,
I gotta introduce.
Do I need to get the
No.
horn? Do I need it over here?
I got it.
Okay,
but I gotta set up our
I'm
guest.
gonna find my own horn because
Listen. A great alley-oop is an art. All right, a great alley-oop.
I'm well aware of that. I alley-oop to you all the time.
Flipping the apple across the face and allowing Benetti to hit the one-timer through the back of the net. It's an art to that. But now I just got to jump right in. Ladies and gentlemen, the voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, the Upstate's hockey team, the legendary Mark Benetti, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show. Benetti, you handsome devil, you. How the hell are you, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. And Rob, in some instances, it's great to see an awesome setup and a brilliant flourish of a pass. But every now and then, you just got to hammer down and go straight to the nut. So, certainly I know what you were trying to do, introducing the horn, introducing me. But, sometimes you just got to crash the net. Good things happen.
So what he's saying is he was on my side as far as that goes. That's what I heard.
I mean, it's a good rivalry. It's a good rivalry. Mark Benetti joining us here on the show. Where are you right now, pal? Down in Orlando, an unfortunate OTL to the Solar Bears, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. Are you on a bus right now?
No, I'm actually sitting in the lobby of a hotel in your favorite city in America.
The butthole of America, Jacksonville, Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, Benetti, I am so sorry. I hope that the hazard pay is worth it.
Listen, it could be worse. I could
not
be
much
anywhere else in this league that I've not really gotten along with over the 12 years I've been in it. So, I certainly take this with a grain of salt over anything else.
Between you and me, because nobody else is listening, what's your least favorite place to have to go?
Back in the day, it used to be Brampton. The only redeeming quality about Brampton was they had Tim Hortons. But I did not necessarily like going there. Also, when I was with the Rapid City Rush and we go to Brampton, it was a 30-hour bus ride. So that probably didn't help my perception of it. But and then only 200 people would show up to the game. So it was certainly a unique time, no doubt about that.
I think I would have been sick a lot before I took a bunch of 30-hour bus rides.
It certainly built up character. I don't miss those days necessarily. I do miss the camaraderie that was created on those bus rides. Just a lot of stories swapped, and obviously you get to see the scenic route of where you're going. But it certainly added a degree of difficulty to how we got around.
All right, let's talk a little bunny hockey here on the show with Mark Benetti, voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. And I think to get to where we are now, we got to take a look back, Mark Benetti, because we missed you over the Christmas break. The end of 2024 was not kind to the Hoppers. They dropped 5 consecutive to round out the month of December, including a couple to Jacksonville at the crib, couple of roadies as well there. Then we turned the calendar into January. Started off the month of January with a couple of good ones, a win over Orlando, a good win over Jacksonville, 5-4. Where was this team at the end of December, and what caused that little bit of a trip up there, and what are we trying to change in January?
So the team was really banged up at the end of the month, and we're still technically pretty banged up. There was some illness passed around. It's that time of the year where everybody's got something. Because we're always together, you're passing it around. So it's one guy has this guy's got that. And so obviously it's not conducive to playing your best hockey because you're just not physically in your best shape. So that certainly hurt. Going into Savannah, the team played two guys shorthanded. Coming back from Savannah, they would play one shorthanded here and there, game time decisions because of illness and stuff. So that certainly didn't help. I mean, at the end of the day, there are teams that still find ways to win. And it's not that the Swamp Rabbits team didn't compete. It's just everything that could have happened at once. And so you're in a tight one on the road against Savannah prior to the holiday. You drop that one. 6-3 doesn't tell the whole story because it was a 2-0 Swamp Rabbits lead. They battled back to tie it at 3, and then 2 net front redirects, seconds apart. That was all she wrote there. You come back, Jacksonville comes spirited. They've got a full lineup. They beat you 3-0 in a game where, again, the final score doesn't tell the story because it was a goaltending duel throughout. You then battle to a 2-2 tie in the third. Game 2 against Jacksonville, they eventually power through, win 5-2. The Norfolk Admirals come to town, one of the highest powered offenses in the league. A 2-0 lead. They find a way to score 7 in a row. They win 8-3. But then the Swamp Rabbits now start to get healthy. They get reinforcements. You get Caleb Lawrence. You get Quinn Olson. You make a trade for Chandler Romeo to shore up the back end. And all of a sudden, you're on a 3-game point streak. And it's because you're playing the right way and you're starting to get healthy, both through illness and through actual injury and whatnot. So, the team's put together a heck of a road trip thus far. Yesterday, I think they deserved a better result, but you take a point when you can get it, especially at this time of the year. 2-1 the final last night in overtime, which is just a tale as old as time against Orlando, because even going back to the playoffs, 7 out of their last 11 games have gone past 60 minutes, and Orlando has won 6 of them. So, it's unfortunate. It really is. But, at the end of the day, that's a big point gained, and we still have yet to suffer regulation loss in 2025.
This is one of those interesting spots, Benetti, that it can be hard for some people to track because you do have a ton of transactions. You've got guys coming and going from Ontario. You've got to make moves to fill that roster spot. Then you start to add in long-term injuries, guys like Ben Freeman, who's been dealing with that wrist, Max Coyle, who's been dealing with the foot, et cetera, et cetera. It makes for very interesting times for a guy like Kyle Mountain. How has, in your opinion, Mountain been about kind of keeping track, about trying to keep this roster together and on the same page to get through what I think might be the most difficult portion of the calendar for any lower-level professional hockey team?
I think he's done a phenomenal job, honestly, because and I think you look to the transaction that he made to bring Chandler Romeo in, the rookie defenseman, huge 6'6", 220-pound moose on the back end, swapping out Patrick Moynihan with the Idaho Steelheads. Obviously, Moynihan dished the puck out well. He was a half-wall guy on the power play, somebody with a ton of skill and tenacity. And, you don't necessarily like giving up offense, but at the end of the day, he recognized that there was a need, that the team had to shore up the back end. And Chandler Romeo, I personally think, has done a phenomenal job through 3 games in his Swamp Rabbits tenure. And I'm excited to see him make his home debut this weekend when South Carolina and Savannah come to town. So I think he's done really well with it. And also too, it's the surprise factor of it. Not necessarily call-ups, but guys that are game time decisions because they're not feeling well. Guys that get bumps and bruises because they're playing the toughest division in the league. And you always have to have your head on a swivel with, okay, can I trust this guy into the lineup? Can I swap this person here? How do I mix and match these combinations? Or how do you find talent to come on up and get a job done? And then I look to how he found Mason Emoff from the SPHL's Fayetteville Marksmen. And the guy has 5 points in his last 3 games. And he's on a line with Arvid Kadaroff and Brent Peterson. And right now they're driving the bus for the Swamp Rabbits in 5-on-5 offense. So, I think he's done a very good job with it. But again, you also realize too that you're playing in the toughest division in the league. There's no easy night. So no matter who you bring in, it's going to be a battle no matter what. But the team so far has risen to the challenge through 3 out of 4 games in the road trip, and they're going to anchor it tonight against Jacksonville.
Mark Benetti, voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. How much has, and I know we've talked about him before he got dinged up, but how much has the loss of El Capitan Ben Freeman impacted this team?
Well, it's certainly huge because that's a physical presence. It's a vocal leader. It's also your number one draw man, right? He plays penalty kill. He plays net front power play. And it's a guy that just his presence out there does a whole bunch. But that's where, again, I look to a Miles Gendron and a Brent Peterson, 2 guys wearing the A's. And it's not just Ben Freeman being out here, Rob. You got to remember, Joe Leahy also wears an A too, and he's been out for an extended period of time with an upper body injury as well. So a leadership load that normally falls on 4 guys on the ice now falls on 2. And Brent Peterson and Miles Gendron have done a heck of a job in leading this team and being more vocal and rising to that challenge. It's also leadership by committee, too. You've got guys leading by example in that room as well. Starting with Brent, he's got goals in 3 straight games, and he was brought into this team with a trade within the division and an extra partner in a 3-way swap for offense and for goal scoring. And the guy strung together his first 3-game goal streak of the year. He's responsible for getting the point last night in overtime because he tied it in the second period. But then you look to a Mason Emoff who has the opportunity in this league to now make an impact and be on a team and get an opportunity from the SPHL, and has 5 points in his last 3 games. He had 2 goals, 2 assists, and then a helper last night against Orlando. So, it's by committee. You see him stepping up. You see Colton Young starting to put together some offense. Dryden McKay stepping up between the pipes. Jacob Ingham putting together a couple of quality starts here. So, it's everybody's taking that onus of, all right, we're without the man wearing the big letter on his chest. So this is a team effort, and it all starts with us in the room.
We are talking to Mark Benetti, voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. All right, let's take a look at what we got coming up, Benetti, because what a home weekend after this roadie wraps up this evening on the road at Jacksonville. We open it up on the 10th. The South Carolina Stingrays come over to renew the rivalry for Stick It to Cancer Night, which is, as somebody who, I lost my father to cancer when I was just 25, an incredibly important night, an incredibly special night, and a great way to spend a Friday at the well.
Absolutely, Rob. It's one of the most emotionally charged nights of the year. And this is such an insidious disease. And to the point that you just made, we all know somebody who knows somebody who's been affected by this disease. And so this is just our way to try and do our part in what seems to be an ongoing fight against cancer that I eventually do believe one day we're going to win it overall. And we're going to eradicate this thing. But we need everybody's help. We need the community to rally together. The team's going to wear lavender jerseys on Friday. They'll be auctioned off with proceeds benefiting the Bon Secours St. Francis Foundation. Throughout the entire night, we're going to recognize those who have fought and those who continue to fight this disease. And we'll also recognize survivors of it. And we'll honor the 10th anniversary of the St. Francis Cancer Center here in our community. So a lot of very emotional things going on that night. And it's one of those nights too, where we consistently say that we're a community partner before we're a hockey team. And it's one of those games where hockey does, yes, you want to win the game. You want 2 points. There's a lot of emotion, but sometimes you got to take a step back and realize there are bigger things that happen. And this is one of them.
Without a doubt. Then on Saturday evening, we got a 2-gamer that starts off against the Savannah Ghost Pirates. And what a heck of a night, because country music superstar Chris Jansen going to perform an on-ice post-game concert that is included with the cost of the game ticket. I'm going to tell you right now, Mark Benetti, there ain't much I love more than a little hockey and a little country music on a Saturday night.
I'll tell you what, I've never seen anything like this before. I know a few hockey teams have done it previously in the American Hockey League and in the ECHL. I'm jacked for this one. I've been jacked up since we figured out we were going to do this night. And a special thanks to Chris Jansen for wanting to be a part of the event and want to be a part of the festivities. He's going to rock out after with his hits, Buy Me a Boat, Good Vibes, Fix a Drink, and his new top 30 hit, What You See Is What You Get. So I'm really excited for what he's going to bring after the game. Of course, the Swamp Rabbits have to bring the energy well before that, which I have no doubt that they'll do against the Savannah Ghost Pirates team, who they've bested the last 2 times they've had them at home. So exciting to see what that is going to bring into Bon Secours Wellness Arena. But that's going to be a tough 2 games against a team that's flirting with Atlanta right now for that last playoff spot. And look, still a little bit more than half the season to go here, Rob, but now we're going to start scoreboard watching. And this is where your head-to-head matchups in the division are critical. So 2 gigantic games coming up against Savannah.
Without a doubt, as it stands right now, looking at the standings across the South Division, Greenville currently checking in 10th points, 10th in points right now, just a handful back behind Orlando. It's going to be an interesting next couple of runs. Mark Bonetti is the voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, kind enough to join us to talk a little local hockey on a Wednesday, my morning. My man, be safe. Get the hell out of Jacksonville ASAP, and we will see you at the Well Friday, big dog.
I'll most likely be departing at 10 o'clock tonight, so please pray for my soul as I continue this arduous path here. But nonetheless, should be a fun night. Try to close out this road trip and go 3-0-1.
Tell the boys not to take it to overtime because another 20 minutes in Jacksonville is 20 minutes too many in Jacksonville.
I wish I had direct impact on decisions like that, but that's just the game of hockey sometimes. Look, they clawed from behind the other day to get that huge second point. So whatever it takes, Rob, I'm excited to see the showdown tonight.
Mark Bonetti, voice of the Greenville Swamp Rabbits. You'll hear him on the action tonight and back on the bike at the Well on Friday night when the Rabbits make their return for Stick It to Cancer Night. Chris Jansen in the postgame concert on Saturday, and Bonetti will be on the call. On the Sports Flash is the great one, Lonzo.
The number 1 men's college basketball team took their first loss yesterday as Tennessee fell on the road at Florida 73-43 rather. Volunteers shot just 21% from the floor and 4-29 from deep while being out-rebounded 55-38. The loss is the worst by a number 1 team in more than 50 years. Clemson Tiger basketball team fell further from the top 25 with a road loss to unranked Louisville last night, 74-64. Brad Brownell said the environment rattled the Tigers, who shot 40% from the floor and 33% from deep. Clemson drops to 12-4. Isn't that good when your coach says that the team was rattled by the arena? Anyway, tune in tonight at 6:30 as the Furman Paladins take on the Citadel Bulldogs. It's Furman versus Citadel right here on your home for Furman Paladins basketball. It's us. It's right here. It is The Fan, upstate. See, I don't know, Kane, because I was chastised yesterday for my old references, and I realized the Price is Right is still on, but since Bob Barker left, how many people actually watch that show?
I think I have that somewhere.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-511-3535. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems. If you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider, 800-511.
Understands how to operate that system. Like the Lions are very well put together. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown who can do the dirty work. You got Jameson Williams who can take the top off. You got Jameer Gibbs who's extremely explosive. You got James understands how to operate that system.
Okay. So yesterday on Fox, Emmanuel Acho was talking about one of the NFL teams, and he said that this wide receiver can take the top off, and Shady McCoy fell out laughing on the show, on the air. This is why guys can't have friends in public. The final hour of the Rob Brown Show starts now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob, the great one, Lonzo, and you. America. Be a part of the show, 844-326-3663. We are taking last calls. You got about a half an hour left to get your vote in. Which of the final 4 college football teams do you least want to see win the 2024-2025 College Football National Championship? Text your answer to 844-326-3663. And when you text it, text Lions, Longhorns, Irish, or Buckeyes. Text the name of the mascot, whatever you want to call it. Lions, Irish, Buckeyes, Longhorns. Text the name of the team you want to least see win the national championship. Who you hating on in this college football Final Four? Lions, Longhorns, Buckeyes, or Irish. Text who you want to least see the 2024-2025 national championship go to. And I'll let you know here in about 38 minutes from now who the upstate is hating on the most right now. I will tell you that as it stands at this moment in time, it has been primarily the Longhorns. But since we last checked in right now, 40% of the vote is Ohio State, 30% to Texas, 20% to Notre Dame, and 10% to Penn State. So right now, based on the votes we've gotten in so far, you can vote one time per poll. Right now, it is the Buckeyes that the upstate of South Carolina least wants to see win the national championship, to the shock of not Lonzo on this. Text Buckeyes, Irish, Longhorns, or Lions to 844-326-3663. We will tabulate the votes at the end of the radio program. All right. Got a couple of clips that I want to play for you here as we roll through the program. First off, this one was sent to us by our friend Tiger Pal Rachel, P1 of the show, P1 of the station. Lonzo, Tiger Pal Rachel sent out an order on the internet for a Xavier Legette jersey this year. And when she received her jersey, she got a little Christmas card with it. She got one of these Xavier Leggett recorded Christmas cards. Now, it's not great sound because I had to kind of play with it a little bit. I regret saying that sentence. Here is what Xavier Leggett's card to Tiger Pal Rachel sounded like.
Hey, you know Dasher and Dancer and Prancer and Vixen, but do you recall the most famous reindeer of them all? That would be Dollar Bill. That's my one-on-one regular. So this time of the year, I like to dress him up as a reindeer with a shiny nose, maybe pull out on the four-wheeler. That's my sled. You're going to see me riding Dollar Bill through the end zone every time I score this year. So listen, from my stable to yours, happy holiday from me and from Nate.
I want to do Christmas again now. I want to run Christmas back. I think we should have an XL Christmas. From now on, it should be XL-miss.
What does he, when he dresses Dollar Bill up as a reindeer, what does he do to make Dollar Bill look like a reindeer? That's what I want to know.
Well, he says he gives him a shiny nose.
Mm-hmm.
I assume he probably got put some of them fake antlers, the kind that come on like a beret, and then they have the antlers sticking off. Put one of those on Dollar Bill. And he said, y'all can see me riding Dollar Bill into the end zone every time I score this year. From my stable to yours. Merry Christmas. That's phenomenal. Dollar Bill and XL, dude. The man's a national treasure.
Unfortunately, he and Dollar Bill only visited the end zone, twice or something?
He got in a couple of times.
Did he?
He got in a few
twice
times.
Would be a couple of times.
I would also say that let's see. Let's pull up the final season stats for Xavier Leggett. He got in 4 times this year. Did it against the Saints. Did it against the Broncos back in October. Did it against the Falcons October. Did it against the Bengals on the 29th. So 4 touchdowns, 497 receiving yards on 49 grabs, averaged over 10 yards a catch. I will say this.
A lot of drops, though.
Lot of drops for XL. Lot of drops for XL. But I'm not wigging out on it just yet. And I'm not going to wig out on it just yet because he's got that wrist injury. And he himself said about 5 weeks ago that injury needs surgery. He's like, it doesn't need surgery where I can't play through it, but I will need surgery when the season is over. He's not going to say this. He didn't say it. He's not going to say it. The team's not going to say it, but it's a possibility. So I am going to lean on a little bit here the possibility that some of those drops were because maybe XL did not have full mobility in his wrist. Right? Like that. It's a theory. It's a theory. I don't have anything to back that up. You know what this is? 100,000% speculation with the raw and unbridled optimism that Xavier Leggett's going to be an absolute monster for this team next year. But can I tell you what my biggest fear is? Here's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is he's not. My biggest fear is he's a guy that's going to get you, 500-600 yards. He's going to get you 4, 5, 6 touchdowns a year. And that's okay. There's a place for that in a Bryce Young offense. There's a place for that. There is a place for that consistent guy. Not a guy who's going to go off for a $110 and 2 tutties a game, but a guy that's going to go get you, 50, 60 yards a game, maybe score every 2, 3 games. He's going to break one. That's the guy. Here's my fear. That BY, who I think everyone, I was listening to Wire yesterday, and they were like, oh, I'm out on Caleb Williams. And I was like, guys who were out on Caleb Williams are the same guys that were out on Bryce Young. My fear is that because those guys, even Diesel, cynical as he is, and also a pure lover, cynical as he is.
All right, that was a little creepy.
What do you want? I told you earlier in the show, he's a lover.
It's still back to hour 1, but it's still a little,
he's a
people
lover.
Just tuning in going, what's that mean?
Diesel is the definition of a lover. If it snows this weekend, Diesel's the guy that's going to have like a horse sleigh ride lined up for his wife. All right, we need to all strive to be more like the absolute Casanova that Diesel
I
is.
mean, he's not going to take that Jeep out and haul people out the ditch.
No, Diesel's gonna go outside and he's gonna build a sleigh, and then he's gonna go catch some reindeer, tame and shred. Diesel's a Disney prince come to life, is what he is. All right. Even he was cynical, and even he has come around on, hey, maybe there's something to this BY guy. Maybe this Bryce Young does got a little something, right? Here's my fear. My fear is that because Jalen Coker kind of started to come on a little bit at the end of the year, my fear is because you moved Adam Thielen back to the slot where I told you from the minute he showed up in Charlotte he needs to be playing, and because XL kind of became that guy that can be your, I'm in trouble, throw it to XL guy. Here's my fear. My fear is that the Panthers don't go get a playmaker at wide receiver. This offseason, for the first offseason in a very long time, you should not have a difficult time convincing a playmaker to come to Carolina. Look, we found our run game. BY is dropping darts out here. We just got 32-year-old Adam Thielen broken out as a slot guy. You should be able to have your name in the conversation for every available wide receiver free agent. Go find a guy. And my biggest fear for the Carolina Panthers right now is that they look at BY's numbers in the second half of the season and they go, we're good. We're going all defense. It's my biggest fear, that they look and they go, we're set at wide receiver. We got our guys. Look at what we did through the air last year. Let's go get all defensive players. And you need defensive players. You got to improve the defense. There ain't no doubt about it. A lot of what looked very negative about the Panther defense towards the end of the year, I will absolutely say springs from the fact that they had the injury bug not bite them, like maul them. And that was a problem this year for the Carolina Panthers. So knowing that, they do need to improve the defense. They need to go get some defensive guys. There is no doubt about that. But my biggest fear is that because the and Bryce Young found themselves connecting down the pipe, that Carolina does not go get what I think is arguably their number one need, which is a superstar wide receiver. A guy that BY can help break out, or a guy that can help break out BY. I think they've got to work on that. And if they look and they go, well, Jalen Coker's a dog. If they look at it and they go, Xavier Legette can be that guy, that consistent, we need 10 yards, get it to BY guy. If Carolina decides that they're set at wide receiver, especially considering down the stretch this year, I think we kind of got to the point a little bit where, the Panthers were largely catching teams by surprise, right? Like, they can do this now. They can do that now. If they decide to stay with what they have instead of making an improvement, I think teams will catch on next year. I don't think the numbers are going to continue to trend upwards, or at least not quite as sharply as they did during the back half of this year. They got to go get a wide receiver. They cannot rely on, and again, I hope I'm right about XL. I hope I'm right about Xavier Legette. I hope that if he goes and he gets himself the wrist surgery and he has full mobility and flexibility of that wrist next year, I hope that XL is an absolute monster next year. But if I'm Carolina, I can't lean on that. If I'm Carolina, I can't lean on that. I can't believe that is the case. I can't assume and work on that being the reality. I need you in on whatever star wide receiver becomes a free agent. I don't know.
So you're not worried about edge rusher because that's what I think they should go after.
No.
is
I'm
edge
not
rusher.
saying this is the only need that they're going to have.
Because if there's an amazing edge rusher right there, I get that guy first.
I'm not against that. And for the record, let me be very clear about this. What I do not want to see is Carolina go get a bunch of wide receivers in the draft. Because I'll keep it a buck. There's like 2 wide receivers. Now, there may be a wide receiver available when the Panthers come on the draft. There may be a wide receiver that's available there. There's a couple of them in this draft that are very interesting. Carolina drafting at number 8. But, yeah, I'm looking for an edge rusher. I'm going to get Abdul Carter out of Penn State, who's an absolute stud. I want to put somebody on the outside of Derek Brown and take some of the pressure off of that guy, especially because now we've Dave Canales has announced that Ejiro Evero is staying on board as the defensive coordinator. Talk about a guy whose head coaching prospects cooled off. But, again, I think for what Evero was working with this year and what he had in terms of injuries this year, honestly, I think it's respectable. It wasn't good, but it was respectable. I think overall, I absolutely am still looking for an edge rusher. If in the draft at 8, I am taking one, especially if Abdul Carter is there. But I'm looking at free agency. Here's the problem you're going to bump into when you look at free agency. Here are the wide receivers that are available in free agency right now in terms of their valuation. Stephon Diggs, that guy's almost 32 years old. You got to pay him $22.5 million a year. T. Higgins from Cincinnati is the first name that pops up that I'm like, you got to be on this guy. 26 years old, average salary about $21.8 million. I got to go get that guy. After that, listen to these names. Keenan Allen's going to be 33. Amari Cooper, 31. Chris Godwin, 29. Brandon Cooks, 32. Deontay Johnson, no. D-Hop is going to be a free agent at the end of this year. That guy's going to be over 33.5 years old. Mike Williams, over 31. Robert Woods, 33. Marquise Hollywood Brown is one of the younger guys available at the top of the list. He's 27. He'll be 28.5 when next season pops up. Darius Slayton, 28. KJ Osborne, 28. Demarcus Robinson, 31. Nelson Aguilar, 31. Ashton Doolin, 28. DJ Chark, 29. Like, the problem is that I think Carolina is in their spot right now. The problem I think they find themselves in right now is that this is a team that still needs to be building towards the future. And if they need to be building towards the future, I don't know what the use of a 32-year-old wide receiver is. Like, you're going to get a good year out of him, maybe 2. But is anybody, even with the improvement we've seen, any of you Panther fans calling Super Bowl or bust next year? I'm not there yet. And I have been, and I'm willing to say this, I have been the only Panther optimist maybe on the radio in the upstate at all.
Pretty sure that's safe to say.
Yeah.
I
was the only one who from week 1 of this year was like, you guys got to chill the hell out. This team's building something. Canales is cooking right now. And a lot of y'all were like, shut up, Rob. You're just, you're kissing the butt of a team. No, I'm not. It's a good team.
Still didn't lead to wins until the last one. I was very impressed with the last win, though.
Again, very easy as a Kansas City fan to say that the only thing that matters is dubs because you're at the top. There is no up to work towards. Everybody else has up to work towards.
I've done 1,000 times. The Panthers are my NFC team. I want them to win. I want them to do well. Wins are very important. They improved, but they didn't finish till this last game when they actually finished.
Correct, but
learning how to finish, that one little step can get you a bunch of victories next year.
Winning is something that you have to work towards. Winning is something that you have to work towards. It doesn't just, you don't just wake up and go, oh, this is the thing, and now we win. It's something you work towards. It's a progression. Go back to your days before Patty Mahomes took over. You guys had to trend upwards before you went, okay, now we win 15 games a year. Like, you had to trend upwards towards that. So To me, I wasn't looking for the dubs and the L's. I was looking for the trending, and the trend was up. But the spot that I'm at now, like I said, the spot that I'm at now is you're still 2 years away. And if you're still at least at like one more progression season before I go, okay, now you go compete to win the division. I mean, maybe you win the division next year. I think the Bucs are falling off next year.
I was going to say, you can't be 2 years away for the division. You've got to compete for the division next year.
Yeah, and I think I'm more looking at it.
You competed for like a year or so ago because you only need, 8 wins half the time to win the whole thing? So
I think I was more looking at it not from the standpoint of compete for the division. I was saying like compete, like for Lombardi, like go compete. And if that is the case, I think you got to get a wide receiver next year to pair with Bryce, to have a year of chemistry building, to have a year of timing, et cetera, that can then be ready in 2026 for an actual run. And none of those guys that are in their early 30s are that. There's one guy right now that I would say you go all on him, and it's T. Higgins at 25. That's the guy.
I agree with T. Higgins. I also think they should try their best to bring Thielen back if they can.
I'd be fine with bringing Thielen back if you can keep him in the slot.
Because the one thing he does, he is so dynamic when he throws him the ball. I mean, his catches are amazing for his age, and he can help that receiver room being in there another year.
I'm fine with Thielen coming back for one more year. The guy can still put up numbers. Texter said, Rob, how do you feel about Tyreek Hill coming over? Honestly, here's the thing. I think Tyreek Hill helps your offense next year. Your problem is, does he help your offense in 2026? I don't care about the quitting thing. I don't care about the look, Tyreek Hill's in it for the money. There's no doubt about that. He goes down to Miami, leaves Kansas City. Kansas City made him an offer that was going to make him one of the highest paid wide receivers. And he went, no, I want to be the.
I do believe he said he didn't like losing. So
he did.
He's probably going to go to a front runner if he goes anywhere.
Absolutely. So even if Tyreek wanted to come to Charlotte, which I don't think he's going to.
He's going to end up in somewhere like Buffalo or Cincinnati if T. Higgins leaves. Someplace like that.
I don't disagree. Here's what I would say. What I would say is Tyreek would actually be an incredible fit in Charlotte. You know why? Because BY drops darts down the field. You saw that at the end of the year. BY can drop deep pass darts. Who's more of a deep pass dart guy than Tyreek Hill? What's a better spot than sending Reek? Yo, head on down. Just sprint, dog. We're going to have BY drop one right in the bucket. Go get it for him. Right? He would be a great fit. And I would, if you want him, if I'm Carolina, I'm selling that to him as, dude, I'm going to get you 1,400 yards of offense next year. I'm going to get you 1,400 yards. You're going to get in the end zone a bunch. And we believe that if we do that, you can win the division next year.
I don't think Tyreek has dropped off a little. That may be part of the problem is him.
I think he has dropped off a little bit. I think he's dropped off a little bit. I still think he's one of the fastest guys in the league, and I still think he's a great player.
Maybe possibly he could have been hyped a little because of the team he played on, and then he went somewhere else and wasn't nearly as good.
See, I put that on Tua. I don't believe in Tua Tagovailoa at all. I don't believe in Tua Tagovailoa. I think Tua's fine. I think, look, when he got sent down there, and he said Tua Tagovailoa is the most accurate quarterback in the National Football League, which was silly. We all know. Of course he's going to say that. That's his new quarterback. Bryce Young might be the most accurate quarterback in the National Football League. I'm not exaggerating. I mean that. All right, we'll talk more about it. The Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate.
Oops.
Give me 30 seconds, guys. Be right back.
I'm a winner. I know how to win.
Yeah, buddy. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show is on the radio. It's the fan upstate. Rob Brown. And the great one, Londo.
You stay classy.
Yeah, what do you want? I'm struggling over here. The great one, Lonzo. You got about 10 more minutes to get your votes in. Which team remaining in the college football playoffs do you least want to see win the national championship? Text your answer. Lions, Longhorns, Buckeyes, or Irish to 844-326-3663. Lions, Longhorns, Irish, or Buckeyes to 844-326-3663. You got about 10 minutes left to get your votes in before we tabulate and find out exactly who the upstate is hating on the most. Text 844-326-3663. Text Lions, Longhorns, Buckeyes, or Irish to tell me who it is that you do not want to see win the national championship the most. All right, couple more things I wanted to get to. Played this clip earlier in the show, but I wanted to break it down a little bit more. This is a host on 1010XL down in Jacksonville, Florida, named Hayes Carlyon. I'm assuming that's how you say it, Carlyon. Hayes Carlyon. It's dramatic. I like it.
You mean from the Corleone family?
No, that's Corleone.
Okay.
This is Carleone.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, he had a thought on Bill Belichick.
I don't think he's ever going to coach a game there. I mean, I think that he'll be there for 5 weeks, and then an NFL owner will call that loses the Ben Johnson sweepstakes because there's going to be 8 openings, and all 8 of these owners are going to think they're the ones that's going to hire Ben Johnson. Well, only one of them will be. And that's if Ben Johnson even decides to leave Detroit, but I bet you he will, having stayed last year. So you're going to have owners. They're like, oh, we didn't get Ben Johnson. What are we going to do now? And when Drew Petzig is there and Liam Cohen are the first 2 guys out of the, advisor's mouth, then you're going to see, I think you're going to see some interest in Belichick. I think he did this for leverage, and I think that it's the perfect scenario because he can be there 5 weeks and then leave North Carolina basically high and dry, and they have no choice but to promote his son, Steve, to be head coach when he leaves them on January 15th.
So he says he does not think that the hoodie is actually going to coach a single game for the UNC Chapel Hill Tar Heels, which is interesting because I was listening to Wire last night, and Cole Bryson said he thinks that Bill Belichick may be the trigger. He thinks Bill Belichick may be the trigger that brings the ACC back into national relevance. He said, look, if Bill Belichick goes to UNC and Bill Belichick starts to utilize the exponential growth in NIL money that came into Chapel Hill after he signed on, and B, his ability to look at recruits and transfer portal players that want to get to the NFL and say, who the hell's going to get you more NFL ready than the greatest NFL coach in the history of the NFL? Why would you not? Right? Why wouldn't you go there? And the belief from Cole Bryson is Bill Belichick takes UNC, he elevates them up to conference contender status, and it elevates the conference as a whole. The conference starts getting more attention, more recruit, yada, yada, yada. I don't know if that happens or not. I don't believe it does. I don't think Belichick's going to be all that great or successful as a coach unless he does a wonderful job building out his staff around him to do the recruiting for him, et cetera, et cetera.
See, I think everyone is so the thought of recruiting is kind of archaic because it's not that way. It's free agency now. That's why he's going to build through the portal. He will have some coaches on to do some recruiting because you got to do some of that. But for the most part, he's going to build through the portal. He's already talked about the model and how everything is set up. You watch. He will not have to go into anyone's house. He won't. He will look at the portal. He will find out what the talent is. He will bring those guys in and he will coach them.
So, number one, you cannot build out your team just via the portal. You can't do it. There's not that many guys in there.
Deion Sanders?
Deion Sanders did not build his team out exclusively.
How many did he send out?
31 when he got there.
Right.
Which, how many guys are on a college football roster? 100?
I think it varies depending on school.
About 100 on average. Some go more, some go less. Now that might change. Here's what I will say. I think Hoodie better get some guys around him. But here's the part that Hayes Carleon forgets. Bill Belichick had 3 NFL teams already talk to him, and all 3 decided to pass. The Atlanta Falcons passed it on him for Raheem Morris, a guy who was already the head coach in Atlanta once and failed. He had 3 teams pass on him. The problem is, and this is why I don't think he'll succeed in college, the problem is the Bill Belichick's way of coaching is archaic and it does not work anymore. It goes out of style fast. It went out of style. That's why 3 NFL teams, including the Falcons and the Jets, for God's sake, said, no, we're good. We'll keep Robert Saleh before we hire Bill Belichick. You understand what that says? And if the NFL, the only place he's ever been, doesn't want him, how the hell do you think he's going to succeed in college? Let's take a break. We'll come back. We got some more stuff to get to before we wrap up the show. Rob, Lonzo, you, the Rob Brown Show, the Fan Upstate.
All right, I just sent you something because it's. I'm curious about if that's actually where the gas tank is.
Yes, that's what the gas tank is.
I don't think I ever knew that. That's really cool, though. You definitely will know when you're low on gas.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's always been fun to me is the fact that when I'm riding my motorcycle,
Wow.
I literally have my junk wedged up against the
I don't know why I never thought of that before. What? Okay. And the thing that would cause it to explode is like right underneath it.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. So the gas tank is the big tank that's right in front of you, and the engine is the motor is under the seat. So you're sitting on top of the motor, and your dude is right at the gas tank.
It's weird. I have rode motorcycles before, so it isn't like I just never really thought about where the gas tank was until now. Is that a good look or a bad look if you roll around in that with that clear tank?
I mean, it's unique. I don't know that I don't really have a take on it. I've never seen anything like it before, which is interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Would you do it?
Probably, I would. Here's what I would do if I could. I would say I would probably own that bike as like a novelty, right? Like I break it out every now and then. It'd be my downtown, around town kind of cruiser.
By the way, for those watching on stream, it's a clear gas tank.
Oh, yeah.
So you can see the gas in the tank as you're riding your bike.
Yep.
How does that Goku not dissolve? There's also a floating Goku in one of them on a Nimbus. Was it probably made out of metal? Or I guess the same stuff that the gas tank's made out of, whatever that is.
I don't think Bill's leaving UNC. I think Bill got a job, and I don't think there's a lot of other jobs that want him, to be honest.
Maybe he ends up being good at this. Maybe then he hands it off to his son, and he's good at it too. It's possible.
Rolling through the final segment of the show here on a Wednesday afternoon. Last call for votes is right now 844-326-3663. Text Longhorns, Irish, Buckeyes, or Lions. And let's go see who it is that the Upstate is hating on as we head into the college football playoff Final Four. The voting is now officially closed. Lonzo, here are the results. Last, the team that the Upstate of South Carolina is least looking forward to winning. 9% of the votes for the Penn State Nittany Lions. Third place, the team that is the third least appreciated team in this Final Four, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The team that the Upstate least wants to see win the national championship game, and there was a late push for this team to put them at double the number of votes as the second place team. Lonzo, I'm sorry to tell you, the Upstate hates the Buckeyes. Ohio State grabbed, when it was all said and done, 48% of the votes in our poll.
Why are you sorry to tell me? I told you at the beginning of the show that was going to happen. I mean, come on, dude.
I mean, that's
I want to know why. Ask them why. Oh, well, it's fans. Really? How many Ohio people do you know? I think we all know why. I think we all definitely know why, and that's fine. I mean,
it's not particularly close. So since we have a minute or two here before we get to what the X is going on, allow me to then ask y'all why. I gave my thoughts earlier on each of the four teams. It's because Texas fans are like mildly annoying with the we back stuff. But for me, it's number one, I don't need another year of that's because we the SEC, Paul. I don't need it in my life. I don't want it in my life. For Notre Dame, it's because there's not much more that is as gratifying to me as seeing people who are unjustifiably arrogant or obnoxious or over the top getting their comeuppance. I appreciate that. Notre Dame fans, while I will say, are some of the nicest people I've ever been around. I went to South Bend, Indiana back in 2011 or so for a game, and I am gonna tell you, is the nicest group of fans I've ever been around. They were phenomenal. But my goodness, are they elitist? They're arrogant. They're obnoxious. It's over the top. Not obnoxious in terms of like loud, rude, vulgar, whatever. Obnoxious in terms of like, you see why we're the best, Rob? You see how we do all the things better than everybody else does any of the things? You see how we're so good at this? We're the best at this. Touchdown, Jesus. We're the best, right? Like that's Notre Dame. For Ohio State. And I do wonder if this is what came into play for you guys. Shoot your text to 844-326-3663 if you voted for the Buckeyes, and let me know why. But the what I call chronically online college football fans, you know what that phrase means? Like people who just like their interaction with society is exclusively online.
Yeah, that's exclusively. Yeah.
Listen, I'll go Buckeyes. I like Buckeyes because it's a nut and it's a football team, and they don't exclusively. Okay, that's enough of that. Buckeye fan, chronically online Buckeye fans are the most annoying fan base on Twitter. They just are. Just everything circles back around to being about them. And on top of that, I really have this weird spot because I kind of want Ohio State to win the Natty, because I may or may not have. When the conversation started preseason, when the conversation started specifically after Michigan beat Ohio State in the regular season finale, I may or may not have gone through and bookmarked and saved a bunch of tweets from a bunch of morons calling for Ryan Day to be fired. Okay? I may or may not have saved receipts. I may or may not have a bunch of people that I saved their tweets just in case Ryan Day wins a Natty to be able to quote tweet and dunk like Zion Williamson on a breakaway when he's healthy. I'm all in for that. But the answer for me is Penn State. The answer for me is Penn State, the Nittany Lions. And I'll tell you why. It is also fan-related. It is fan-related because when the Joe Paterno stuff broke, college football tried its best to give Penn State fans an out. When the Jerry Sandusky story broke, college football did its best to give Penn State fans an out. We tried to say, oh, turns out just a bad guy. Maybe just wipe him from the record books and we'll pretend this never happened. They said, no. He's still the GOAT. He's still the GOAT. He's still the GOAT. We said, hey, maybe just like paint somebody else over his face on that big mural in downtown Happy Valley. And they were like, no, that's our Joe Pa. That's our grandpa. That's our football grandpa. He's not going anywhere. We said, hey, maybe next year, maybe don't have a big Joe Pa love fest at your home game opener. And they went, yeah, it's Joe Pa Day. Joe Pa Day. We're doing a Joe Pa Day. Absolutely Joe Pa Day. College football tried to hand Penn State out after out after out after out to separate themselves from Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky. And they went, no, we don't care about all the evil, awful, gross, disgusting, vulgar things that happen. Joe Pa won a bunch of football games, and we're going to celebrate that. And it's like, not great, Bob. Not a great look. Penn State Nittany Lions, not a great look. That's why, and I don't vote in these polls because I don't want to unbalance them. I'll vote in our Twitter polls because they get a lot. I won't vote in these polls. That's why I voted Penn State. Because their fans were offered an out from the Joe Pa stuff. They were offered an out from the Jerry Sandusky stuff, and they decided not to take it. They decided, no, we know what happened. A full wholesale investigation happened. We know we have the evidence. We have the proof. And yet with all of those things, we are still going to have Joe Pa Day. We're going to leave his mural up. We're going to keep the statue up. College football went, if you take all that down, we will say, oh, it's not Penn State's fault. If you will take all that down, we will say, oh, they didn't know. And they booted the guy and erased him from history the minute they found out. But you didn't do that. You embraced him further. It's one thing to stay a heel fan when the heel has a point. It's another thing to stay the heel fan when the heel's like, Joe Paterno. I don't know. I just have a problem with it. So Penn State's my answer, but the upstate of South Carolina hath spoken. Nearly half of you want the Buckeyes to win the Natty less than anybody else in this kind of college Final Four. James said it's like a battle royale of nothing but heels. I will say this. At least from the perspective I got Saturday in the doing the national show, it definitely feels like there's no Team America in this, right? Like sometimes you get to the four and there's like one team that America gravitates to. There's a Cinderella, or there's a team nobody expected to be there. Or there's a team that's got that one guy everybody loves or whatever. There's always a team that kind of adopts the mantle of America's team in the playoffs. In this Final Four, there does not seem to be a team that America is on board with.
Why not 4 underdogs, 4 teams that didn't win the championships? If there was a 14 playoff, none of these 4 would be in the playoff.
Nobody cares about the conference championships.
Yeah, well, anyway, so I think the people who are in them care. Nobody cares. You also tell a Clemson fan that the ACC championship meant nothing.
It only meant they got in. Did it matter to Oregon? Hell, if anything, it made it harder for Oregon to win the Natty. Made it harder for them to win the Natty. What about I don't know, Georgia? Made it harder for them, arguably, to win. I don't think anybody cares anymore, but we'll see. We talked with Denton Day about that earlier. That podcast will go up after the show's over. After the show's over is after we do this.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
I don't know why I set that up. We never set it up.
I don't know either.
Yeah,
that was I mean, in 4 years of us together? Yeah, but that's fine. The first thing that's Xing is California.
California is Xing because California is burning right now. There are wildfires, dangerous, bad, scary wildfires outside of Pasadena. Late last night, authorities issued full-out wholesale evacuation orders of Pasadena, which I believe is the first time in a very long time that has had to happen. But I will say this, however you feel about California, however you feel about politics, however you feel about all that, I would say, man, this situation is tragic. At some point, we will be asked to mobilize to help, and I hope that we will mobilize to help the people of California the same way that the people of America mobilized to help us after Hurricane Helene. We are all in this country together. We can disagree on politics. We can disagree on philosophy. That's all well and good. People are losing their homes and their lives. So when we are called upon to act, to help, please let's do that.
All right. The next thing that's Xing is T'Challa.
So I saw this, I think this morning, but there is a rumor floating around that Marvel is now prepared to recast the role of T'Challa, aka the Black Panther. They rolled out obviously the Black Panther movie, but they turned the focus obviously over to Shuri taking up the mantle of the Black Panther. And if I recall correctly, it like box office wise, it didn't go great. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
wasn't great.
Yeah, I hate it because what they did to Shuri. But that's
what do you
my
mean
opinion,
what they did to her?
Because they turned her into something that she wasn't and took her from being the lighthearted, the joy of the show, and then made her kind of dismal.
Yeah, her brother just died.
Yeah, but still, some people find
my brother's dead. Here's a hokey pokey joke.
Some people, if humor is part of their lives, they'll find a way to bring that to light. Still.
Yeah, but not everybody is. I'm the happiest JoJo person you know. I broke my hand punching walls when my dad died. I was miserable for 6 months.
I get that, and you and I have actually had this argument before,
I know.
But I guess you forgot it. But still,
no, I'm ignoring it. It's a bad argument.
It's not. T'Challa, if speaking of the second movie, at the end, T'Challa had a son.
He did have a son.
His son's name was T'Challa. Do you remember when the last one happened? When part 2 came out? What year?
Oh,
and how old the kid was?
I don't.
I'm guessing they cast that kid grown up. And that's what I think they do.
That is certainly a possibility.
And by the way, that would be a recasting because it won't be the same actor that the kid was.
But you also, I think we also have to keep in mind at this spot that, there's also the opportunity here. We have opened the MCU multiverse. At this point, we know that there are going to be different iterations of different characters, variants from all different levels. There's also that on the I don't know. And honestly, like, just do a good job.
My money's on the kid is 18 or something, and now he's.
That's fair.
All right. The next thing that's Xing is Elvis.
Yeah, baby, it is the birthday of the king. I haven't been to Graceland yet, and I got told. I've been told
it's a lot smaller than what people think, but I mean, being rich at that time and being.
I've just seen like video
just,
tours of it in some of the rooms, and I'm like, I'd do that. That kind of looks awesome.
You just want to be walking in Memphis.
Listen, the king knows fashion.
Elvis is now, he's 90 years old.
Elvis Presley. I'm going to tell you this. I grew up on Elvis. I still love Elvis Presley.
He ain't dead. He's 90.
I grew up in Elvis. There was a girl in college, hilariously named Courtney, as a matter of fact, a girl in college that I was friends with she grew up in the South, big Elvis person. And our hangout night we never dated. We just listened to Elvis. One day I was like, should we date? She's like, no, because I don't want to ruin Elvis night. And I was like, that's great. Good enough for me. I freaking love Elvis Presley. That's all I'm going to listen to the rest of the day.
All right. The final thing that's Xing is Winter Storm Watch.
So go get your milk and bread, everybody. Because we're going to get an inch of snow on Friday.
Hustle to the store now.
Jokes aside, I did hear Chris Justice yesterday say, and I quote, prepare for a big one. And I was like, attaboy, Chris. Attaboy, Chris. You know what you did there. It's pretty funny.
I accidentally blocked them from getting on the stage at the Star Awards. My daughter will not let me.
Chris Justice is awesome. I love that dude.
Go around me, dude.
He's the best. Yeah. Get ready. We might be snowed in on Saturday. We'll find out. Y'all have a great rest of your day, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you back here tomorrow to do it all over again, but better on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Later.
Light him up. Light his ass up.
No, according to Kay, Elvis ain't dead. He just went home.
Elvis ain't dead. He just went home.
Well, Blue Cane, as the snow miser, I am your enemy.
Wouldn't you guys be on the same
Because
page?
I hate snow. He's unleashing snow, and I hate snow.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Yes. I don't want to hear.
From week 8 till the end of the season, no quarterback had fewer tipped passes at the line of scrimmage than Bryce Young. He had 1.
You know why? They rolled him out of the pocket finally. Didn't leave him in there. They got him in lanes where he could actually see.
The offense cook, baby.
All right, the show's over. Quit acting like you like Bryce Young. What are you doing, man? We know it's a work. Oh, look, we're still on the air.
Everyone, you're all amazing. Thanks for being here. Have a lovely rest of your day. Tell your friends about us. We're trying to get rich and famous. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.